let's allow the attendance for 2 minutes to join in. So for this presentation now, what are the selections? Because we don't see. Can you teach us? Marja, can you teach us? Sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. For the presentation to stop the black panels.
Can I share my presentation perhaps now, already the first slide, or I don't know?
Let's wait 1 more minute and in 1 minute. Or yes, Pascal, you know who starts. Yes, you can start.
Yes, I'm going to do a short introduction before starting.
Perfect.
Hello, everyone.
So officially we are live. You can start anytime you want.
So I can start now, I think. So I would like, hello everybody. My name is Pascal Rouault. I'm a water engineer working at the Berlin Center of Competence for Water as department leader for urban systems. I'm co-lead also of the Water Europe Working Group on Water and Zero Pollution and the former lead of the Bathing Water Working Group. So I'm very, very happy today to welcome you for this workshop on water smart management of bathing areas via digitalization, challenges and opportunities. We had very many people intending to attend this workshop. I think about 200 people signed up this workshop from all over the world. So I'm very happy to really welcome you. What do we want to do today? We want to explore the benefits of digital solutions, to promote some solutions, some modeling, some monitoring solution, some early warning system, and to draw some policy recommendation for the ongoing revision of the Bathing Water Directive. This workshop has been organized by Water Europe in collaboration with European projects, so digital-water.city, which is a Horizon 2020 project, iBathwater, which is a live project, and the project Synergia from Portugal. Some technical information, first of all. The workshop will be shared by Water Europe, so it's possible to have to look it online. And we'll share with you some questions via Slido. You have the possibility to ask your questions, but you have to write them, and we'll try to answer most of them during the discussion at the end of the blocks or at the end of the workshop. We are really interested to hear your question, your ideas. I now propose that we are starting, and I invite Silvia Bartolini and Maya Dorota Feder to start with the first presentation. So thank you everybody for that.
Good morning everyone, and thanks Pascal. I'm Silvia Bartolini, head of unit in DG Environment for the unit that is responsible for the review of the Bathing Water Directive. And today with my colleague Maya, who is there with me, we are going to try to provide you an overview of what are we doing in relation to the review of this directive. I will provide a little bit, I will set the scene and provide a more political background, and then Maya later on will provide the presentation going more into detail so that you can also visualize where we are and the different details of the evaluation. This is a little bit of a strange evaluation that we are doing because it is called a back-to-back evaluation and impact assessment. And let me, from the very beginning, explain this process because I think it is important to make clarity. What does it mean, a back-to-back evaluation and impact assessment? It means that differently from, let's say, the classical process where we first do a public consultation and then we make our evaluation and then we publish the evaluation and then we make another public consultation and then we go for the impact assessment and possible revision. We are doing everything together. What does it mean? We know already that while we are evaluating the directive that we will do an impact assessment, which means that the evaluation will feed into the impact assessment and will be published only at the end. This means that there will be only one public consultation and only one stakeholder strategy in terms of consultation. This is why I'm thinking and I'm saying, and I would like to repeat what was said before. This workshop could not have been organized in a better timing for us, because now we are at the stage of evaluating the directive. And when you evaluate a directive, it means that you have to, on the one side, evaluate if it has met its objective. And in that case, for the bathing water, we need to evaluate if it has managed to preserve, protect, improve the quality of the environment on the one side, but also to protect the human health by complementing the Water Frame Directive, because that is the main objective of this directive. But at the same time, and I think that is extremely important, we really need to evaluate if this directive is still fit for purpose in relation to the new political agenda in which it situates. This directive dates from 2007. We are now in 2022, and we have a new political agenda. We have the European Green Deal, and we have, in the context of the European Green Deal, that this directive fits more prominently in the context of the zero pollution ambition. So we have a new objective at the horizon of 2050 of making sure that by 2050 we reduce air, soil, and water pollution to levels that are no more harmful to health and to our ecosystem. In these concepts, and with this in mind, we have to evaluate if this directive is still relevant, is still capable of delivering those objectives. And so in this discussion, there are two elements that I would like to really emphasize today with us, with all of you, which are, there will be many key issues that we're going to assess, but I would like you to really to send two main messages. The first one is parameters. So if we need to achieve the zero pollution ambition, it is still possible that this directive is only, let's say, looking at fecal bacteria in terms of parameters, when we know that, and that was also confirmed by the public consultation, that bathers and that citizens are more and more concerned for other harmful substances and chemicals, for example, that are present in bathing water. So this is an issue that we are going to look into carefully, also taking into consideration WHO recommendation and guidance. And the second issue, which I would like to draw your attention in the context of this evaluation, but also future impact assessment, is in relation to, let's say, the main topic of today's discussion, and how to make sure that this directive is in line with our time, that this directive delivers in line with today's needs of citizens, in particular in relation to information to consumers and in relation to simplification for monitoring and reporting. So it is clear that in this context, digitalization and smart water technologies plays an important role. That was already mentioned clearly in the Inception impact assessment that we published more than 1 year ago, when we, let's say, kicked off the revision process, or the review process of this directive. And there we specifically mentioned the fact that we would look carefully into the level and timeliness of information provided to the public, notably having regards to key developments such as digitalization, the new consumer agenda, and the blue economy, including sustainable tourism, and also simplification of monitoring and reporting obligation, having regard to the latest digitalization, health observation, and satellite navigation development, including checking feasibility of using EU space services data and application to support efficient implementation of the directive. So those were two objectives that we already set ourselves since the very beginning. Now we have a little bit more evolved in our thinking, in our interaction with stakeholders. We have looked at the public consultation, and I think that there are other issues that are now emerging more prominently in relation to this, let's say, digitalization aspect. And there I would like to stress, in particularly beyond the monitoring and reporting and information to consumer that I mentioned before, how we can empower citizens to be, let's say, to encourage their public participation in the identification of bathing site, in the providing information on short-term pollution event, on the quality of the basin. So really the idea of today we see what is happening in the energy sector, we see what is happening in the air quality sector. And we think that there are a lot of there is a lot of empowerment that digital technology, social media, and new application can provide to citizens to make it more an active actor and to provide feedback, because feedback has to be both ways. So that is something on which we expect and we would like to listen to those that are already more advanced or that already have developed best practices in different parts of Europe. The other point is in relation to managing bathing sites and to predictive modeling, because we see that as an important element. And I see that during I've looked at the agenda and I see that there are a number of points that are in relation to short-term pollutions, and we have spotted that as a very an issue that is quite recurrent on where digital technology can really provide an added value. And so that is also another venue that on which we are very eager to listen and to get suggestions from you today, because in this, let me say, and I will stress it, and I think I will never stress it enough, in this review, we are really trying to build on what is already existing, and we're really trying to build on, let's say, inputs that come from stakeholders, from and also from member states. That's why beyond the very open public consultation open to everybody, we organized as well a member state dedicated stakeholder consultation, where we were really trying to engage with member state and understand what are they doing, which are the best practices, and what is already happening beyond, the current implementation of the directive. So I'll stop here. Before giving the floor to Maya, I would like just to draw, to make a final point, which is the fact that this review is taking, this evaluation is taking place in parallel with the revision of another important pieces of legislation for which our unit is responsible for, which is the revision of the Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive. We are now preparing that. We would like to, our objective is to present a revised directive before summer. And in this revision, the issue of bathing water, and there are many links with the Bathing Water Directive, because, not least because of the fact that if you increase the level of treatment of water, if you manage to capture as much as possible micropollutant, microplastics at the level of urban wastewater treatment facilities, then there is less that is entering in our basin sites. The issue of short-term pollution, stormwater overflows, urban runoff features prominently in the review of the urban wastewater, and this is a clear link. And the more we can do at source, upfront, the less is entering into our bathing water size. And that is for you, basically a reflection for you, because we are really trying to revise the urban wastewater, keeping in mind the need to reinforce the link with the bathing water to ensure coherence and to make sure that they mutually support each other. We have seen more and more, for example, that bathing waters are one of the main drivers of some processes that take place in urban wastewater facilities. I'm thinking of disinfection. So for all these elements, we are really trying to building more and more the link and to reinforce coherence. I'll stop here because I think that I've given you the background, the political background, and the scene where this review is taking place. And I would like to leave the floor to Maya, who is really going now to provide a presentation explaining you more in details the different steps of the evaluation, and then the timeline for the next steps and our stakeholder strategy, and the next workshop that we are organizing in order to get feedback from all of you. Thanks a lot. And Maya, please.
Yes, thank you, Sylvia. Good morning, everybody. I will quickly try to present you all the steps that we covered so far under the review of the directive. And I will try to also show that we've tried on each step to involve the stakeholders in the process. So we started with the publication of the roadmap. It was a combined roadmap for the impact assessment in the evaluation of the directive. We did that in March last year. And after 1 month, we received feedback. The feedback for such a small directive, as it's very often seen, was quite a good one. We received 54 responses that gave us suggestions and mostly confirmed the points that we presented in the roadmap. namely the 9 issues where we think that further action is required, that needs to be looked up during the review, looked into during the review process. And since the evaluation of the roadmap, what we did already, we also published an open public consultation, as Sylvia mentioned. This was the questions in the open public consultation referred to both phases of the review, namely the evaluation and the impact assessment part. We also had a special MS-targeted questionnaire that we ran in autumn last year. And on top of that, we also organized a workshop on the evaluation. The workshop that was a successful event in which we presented the areas that were analyzed, because we wanted to respond to evaluation questions. To do that, on top of the desk research and available documents, we wanted to consult the ideas with the stakeholders and member states as well. Right now, we are at the phase of finalizing the evaluation. In the next slides, I will explain a bit more this phase, and we are organizing a workshop on the impact assessment of the Bathing Water Directive that is planned on the 28th, 29th of April. And you will find in my presentation a link, a registration link, and I would like to kindly invite you to register for the workshop, as one of the sessions will be devoted to using digital solutions. What are the objectives of the review? What do we know about the directive? As you know, perhaps you've heard this opinion that the directive has been overall a success, and it is well implemented. It's a targeted piece of legislation with quite clearly set requirements. It's transparent because it foresees that the process for the public to be informed. Also, what is reported by member states can easily be accessed on the EEA website and also on the Commission website, and it's directly relevant to citizens. And these areas of intervention, those are very well known to you. So it's about identification of bathing sites, their management and monitoring, reporting, but as it was, I mean, the will of the legislator at the time when the directive was adopted was to make the directive and then monitoring requirements and reporting requirements not simply the requirements for the sake of monitoring and reporting. It was to improve the quality of bathing water. So that was the idea that the legislator had at the time. And also the directive set clear rules about information to the public compared to the so-called old Bathing Water Directive. So now we want to check if it's still fit for the future. So that's the main aim of the review exercise. We want to see if there is room for improvement. That's why we also went directly for the back-to-back assessment, because we already had a lot of data available. Yeah, so I don't know whether you can see the first the evaluation report slide, because I'm just getting a message that you might still see. Could somebody confirm whether you can see evaluation report?
Now we see it.
Yeah, okay, perfect, thank you. So in the evaluation process, the way it's planned for any analysis of any legal act at the Commission is we look at 5 criteria and we assess each legal act looking at those 5 areas. So we are checking the efficiency of the directive. Has it been efficient? Has it been effective? Has it been relevant, coherent, and has it been of EU added value? Is it still of EU added value? We are checking whether it has been successful and what made it a successful intervention, and has it made a difference, and is it still at all relevant? So as I said, we went for a back-to-back assessment because there's a lot of data information available. We are lucky to have the data sets available for this directive on the annual basis, and the reports are also published on the annual basis. So, and all that information is available at EEA. and it can be easily accessed by anybody, actually. So whoever wants to check the quality, the data is available there. Then we have the bathing water profiles that should contain the most useful information about the bathing sites. That could give the person who's interested in the bathing water quality of a site an idea of what to expect, of what types of problems the bathing site might be facing during the bathing season, and not only. And also what we did in 2018, we ran a quality check, a reality check of compliance assessment of the directive that resulted in 28 country reports and 1 EU overview report. And this gave us an idea of what might be the areas where our action would be needed to, or a need for improvement. On top of that, the European Environment Agency published last year a report, already 2 years ago, a report on bathing water management in Europe, on about successes and challenges. And on top of that, also, as a result of the regular meetings with the member states, we do get a lot of information about research needs identified by member states. As you will know, the directive is very linked to WHO guidelines and recommendations when it comes to the parameters that we have in the directive, and also the way the monitoring is organized. So we follow, in that respect, during the review, we follow the advice of WHO, as the directive itself required us to consult WHO on scientific, analytical, and epidemiological developments that would be relevant for the review of the directive. So this was, we had a special contract with WHO, and based on that, there is a report that it's available on CIRCA-BC. This is the folder where we published all the documents relevant for the directive. And WHO provided advice, in particular related to the parameters in the Bathing Water Directive. And on top of that, last year, WHO published revised guidelines on safe recreational water quality. So during the evaluation process, we also took those into account. What did we learn from the Member States compliance report that was published in 2018? That there seems to be a problem with the identification of bathing waters that is largely linked to the notion of a large number of bathers that is defined differently across Europe. That member states are, not all of them have a strategy for managing cyanobacteria at the national level. That they might be, at least in some cases, there might be cases when the abnormal situation is used too often than what the legislator had in mind. That short-term pollution events are not managed well enough, as they have an effect on the quality of bathing water, which is then clear from the classification of a bathing site, especially those classified as poor and sufficient. As you know, the directive set a limit for normally by 2015 there should be no poor bathing sites, but there are still poor bathing sites, and there are still sufficient ones. And also, when it comes to public information, apparently there's a need for improvement of the presentation of the available information. Also, we got feedback from colleagues at the European Environment Agency, who, with colleagues, we are publishing each year the report, and from their experience with the reporting exercise, in their opinion, there is a problem with the identification of bathing waters, again, linked to the notion of a large number of bathers. The listing of bathing waters, sometimes it happens that after 5 years of being unable to reach at least sufficient grade, bathing sites are delisted. Or re-identification of bathing waters, which perhaps it's more linked to the internal coherence of the directive. It's not so clear how to do it, and whether we need a full data set to be available within one bathing season or over 4 years. Short-term pollution monitoring, and also grouping of bathing sites. So with all that in mind, when we started the review, we had a set of objectives guiding us through our work. We are aware of new environmental, health, and societal challenges. We want to make the information timely, accessible, and user-friendly for the public. We want to look at the classification system to check whether we need more samples, whether we should change the calculation methods, whether we should update the parameters, management measures, and most importantly, also to align with the objectives of the European Green Deal and Zero Pollution Action Plan. And also there is apparent need for improving the way we identify bathing sites to ensure that as many European bathing sites that are used are monitored and that are officially identified. And already in the roadmap, we identified issues. These were looked at in the evaluation process. We had 18 evaluation questions that help us analyze the directive. And those, as you can see, they correspond to the objectives we set for the review. So we would like to have effective implementation and management measures in place. We want to ensure the proper level of health protection to make it perhaps higher from what it is now. We want to see if classification has worked, whether it should be improved. Again, identification and management requirements, but also a monitoring and scientific or technological development. And I think that's where you come as help. And what we have planned as next steps that I've already mentioned as part of the impact assessment phase, we are organizing a workshop. And here's the link that I would like to invite you to use to register for this event. And one of the sessions will be devoted to digital solutions for identification of bathing waters and also for empowering public. So about spreading the information about the bathing water quality at bathing sites. And we also planned another event would be a stakeholder conference in June. And well, we expect the work to be finalized, to have a product that would be the result of our work in the first quarter of next year. Thank you. Thank you, and that's all from me. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer these.
Yes. Thank you very much, Sylvia and Maya. Thank you for really taking care of the time. To my opinion, it was a very good overview of the situation and an invitation to be active in this process. The solution we are presenting today, they are more looking at the management of the bathing area. So we are not really addressing this some of the issues that you have been presenting, like the identification of the bathing waters, or we do not talk about some other parameters. But that's it's impossible in this frame to give an overview of what is available in this context. I don't know if there are some questions from the audience. I would like to invite you, all of you, to write them in the chat, and so that you can have a direct link to Sylvia and Maya. Until now, I haven't seen any question. I don't know. Okay, because feel really free to do like that. I don't know if I would like to ask you something. You have been talking about the parameters that have been discussed. Is there now an idea of the parameters that should be considered in the future, or that's still the discussion?
I don't know whether Sylvia, you would like to respond?
Sorry, can you? I was
trying...
interrupted by an incoming call. What happened? What is the question again? Can you repeat it, Pascal? Sorry.
Yes, no problem. I wanted to ask. You were talking about the considering perhaps some new parameters, and I was asking you if you are talking about the parameters that are in the WHO report. And if it's something that is going to be considered or proposed for this evaluation.
Yes, thanks, Pascal. I think because I made the point on the parameters, because let's say in presenting a little bit, providing an overview of what we are looking into. Of course, I try to be as wide as enough, and also to go beyond the issues that are really for the purpose of today's legislative discussions. And amongst those, I think that the parameter is going to be one of the most important elements that we are going to look into. Yes, we are going to look at the scope of the legislation in relation to parameters, which, as I said, only includes today fecal bacteria. But we know that in the context of W and in the latest recommendation, the WHO also looked into those parameters, and they were providing some suggestions in relation to possibility of expanding those to cover other possible elements. And that also, and we are taking this evaluation with an open mind. We are looking a little bit at what WHO is doing and what they were suggesting, but we are not only, let's say, limiting that. We are also looking and listening to what our stakeholders says in the context of the public consultation. One of the points that came out from citizens and from the respondents was in relation, for example, to chemicals. We are putting that evaluation and that long-term thinking in the context of the zero pollution, as I was mentioning before. And then we will have to see also in relation to what is already covered by other legislation, which is extremely relevant for the purpose of achieving the objective of the bathing water. And I'm thinking of the Water Framework Directive, the urban wastewater, as I was mentioning before. So it is let's say we are now assessing. We are looking at which possible parameters we could be included or not, and if there is and if it is really possible from the point of view of cost efficiency, because all our solutions will have to be assessed against scientific evidence, but also cost efficiency, let's say, elements and analysis that we will have to perform. Now, you mentioned WHO. It is true that in general, we always look at WHO, but it is not always the rule that the EU is, let's say, fixing the WHO standards as the limits. In the context of the Drinking Water Directive, for example, we decided to go well beyond the standard of the WHO. So I think that more and more in relation to environment and climate legislation, the EU leads by example, sometimes setting standards that are the highest worldwide and going beyond what is said by the WHO or World Organization. We will have to see, and we will have to make an assessment with a real open mind and looking a little bit at the pros, the cons, and the costs of all options. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I have a question from the audience, and the question is from Martin Welker. Will there be a clear definition of bathing site in the new Bathing Water Directive that allows the distinction of multiple bathing sites in a single bathing site?
This is one of the points that we have already spotted as being an issue for which we need more legal clarity. I cannot tell you now which is going to be the solution that we are going to already take, but indeed we are looking in the direction that was mentioned now. We are also looking a little bit at the other options, but we take that there is a need for improving the legal clarity in relation to the definition of the bathing site. And we are really looking at different possibilities there in order to make sure that in the next directive that will be possible not only for individual, for multiple, but also when we identify and we define those sites, that we do in a way that it is clear and that it is does not, let's say, provide ambiguity. Because what we see then, when we have ambiguity, then you have an issue in implementation, and that is an issue that we are now, let's say, experiences in relation to the implementation of the bathing water. We see it, and so we have already clearly realized, and in the inception impact assessment, it was one of the issues that we have spotted as amongst, let's say, the elements of the directive requiring more legal clarity. Yes.
Thank you very much. I have a further question from the audience, and which is what opportunities innovation for water in our environment and community?
Well, I think that is the purpose of today's discussion. I think that innovation, there are no limits to innovation. What we need to do, and I think our real challenge, is to draft a legislation which is future-driven and future-proven. Because when you draft a legislation, you might then need to limit the potential for innovation. So we need to be smart enough and to be future-looking, forward-looking enough to draft a legislation that will embrace all future innovation and that will allow those to be used without putting any limits. Because I think that the limits is the limits of our invention and the limit of our capability to do that, to then implement and use those technology. So there is indeed a challenge for us today to make that legislation future driven and to make it more in line with our times. But I mean, there are many, and they are in relation to, I mean, and I think that the agenda that you have put together today will look at many of them. But I mean, in relation to the management of the water site, in relation to providing information, in relation to forecasting, to prevent, I mean, in relation to short-term pollution. I mean, there are so many. So I think that it's very difficult to put a limit or to define all of them. What we really need to do is to make sure that our legislation will capture them by being technology neutral and also being future forward looking.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for addressing this agenda. But of course, the problem of this kind of agenda is it's not possible to bring everything, and that's why I would like to also have the opinion, to have some information from the attendees, and that's why now we'd like to share some questions with you, and to ask you about where are you from, to ask you what is your experience with the management of bathing areas, and of course, if you have some other technology or idea or opportunities that you know concerning the management of bathing areas, so that we can gather some more information. Not because Silvia said there's a lot of solutions now. There's a lot of ideas, and the idea is not to stop them. The idea is to look forward, and that's why I would like to support this energy, to support this challenge, and really to gather some more information about that. So that's why we'd like to share with you a slide and some questions, and to ask you now to answer this question via Slido, and then we can share your answers then at the end of this meeting. So I think Nico wanted to now share the QR code of the Slido. That's okay. Can you see that?
Yep.
So thank you, Silvia. Thank you, Maya, for this presentation. We are coming back at the end of this workshop to have a more global discussion after the presentation of this of all the technologies, of all the solutions. Please fill this survey. Please be part of this workshop. We know it's difficult to have some digital workshop, and that's the way we want to include you in this context with your question, with this survey. So don't hesitate to answer that. We can have this. So you only need to put your mobile phone or to this QR code, and then you are going directly to the survey. If you have any problem, if you have any issue, please contact us. And I think we could also, there's the link of the survey in the chat, so you can also join it via this link. There was perhaps a question for Sylvia or Maya. Is it possible also to share the link of the workshop for the end of April via the chat? It could be useful for
I will do it. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. Thank you for be active in this context, and we can go on with a small presentation by Loïc Charpentier, with innovative water policy manager of Water Europe, and this presentation is on the recommendations and Water Europe activities concerning the Bathing Water Directive evaluation. So please, Loïc, the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot, Pascal. So just to, in fact, the presentation to remind the framework of this workshop, that it's a collaboration between the collaboration program of Water Europe and the advocacy program. In the last month, so I will share my screen. So in the last month, Water Europe participate to a collective effort to build the positions for the revision of the Bathing Water Directive. And in our discussion between the different working groups of Water Europe and also with the Policy Advisory Committee of Water Europe, we established 6 main recommendations to a new water smart Bathing Water Directive. Of course, Water Europe in that case welcome the revision of the Bathing Water Directive, partly to improve existing management methods, also to be in line with the innovative solution, tackle the emerging problem and ensure synergy with other legislation, and partly the Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive. So for the first recommendation to reinforce public health through robust and frequent monitoring and clarifications, the main element that the innovative water sector stress was to have a clarification system that needs to be harmonized to avoid confusions and improve the consistency of monitoring requirements. Also to facilitate the exchange of data and to increase also the number of annual minimum number of samples for EU bathing water sites. It's also another element was also to extend the bathing water seasons and also to improve bathing site identification in a holistic way, meaning that to consider from the spring to the sea the different and potential pollutions. For the second element, to be aligned with the latest stage of research and technology innovations, the testing method for E. coli and also Heterococci should be updated and appropriate for bathing water use. So it needs to have some update in terms of the methods in that case, and also to facilitate a mutual recognition or alternative method within all the member states. Also, the legislation should be updated to meet new challenges, and partly for pharmaceutical and microplastic. And in this context, we really think that the Bathing Water Directive is relevant and we need to keep it. Also, for the third aspect, in terms of encouraging the development of an inclusive management of bathing water, we will have example in the next minutes about projects, HUE projects. But of course, the digital tools are really important in this context. And also, we really support the enforcement of public informations as we are pushing for water smart society, and it includes inclusive and transparent governance. In that case, also, we support citizen science. We have good example across Europe to have citizens participating in data and informations gathering. for quality of water. And I think also in that context, the water-oriented living labs can play a key role also in the coordinations and in coordination with the Zero Pollution Action Plan. We really consider that if we are able to gather all around the table the different stakeholders at the local level, we can really better explain, exchange, and raise awareness about the quality of bathing waters. Also, that also, of course, links with the fourth point to encourage the use of digital tools for bathing water management. It can facilitate the monitoring of the quality of water, but also to facilitate the exchange of information. For the fifth point, to promote the use of green infrastructure, here it's more in line with the cooperation or coordination with the other EU legislations. We think that, for example, for short-term pollution, it might be a way to control the risk of short-term pollutions and offer options to manage floods, pollutions from urban areas, and also bring back nature, which is in line with several EU strategies. And of course, that stress the importance to have synergy with the other water-related legislation. So Silvia Bartolini mentioned the Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive, but we have other legislations that can support quality of water. And in that case, the evaluation of the Bathing Water Directive must ensure its coherence with the current legislation and strategy. I'm thinking about, of course, the biodiversity strategy, the Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive, but also some industrial activities might be helpful in terms of data, for example. And I think that's all. And Pascal, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Loic. And thank you for this overview. Is there any question from the audience on that? I'm not sure. I think we should jump into the first presentations, and then we have some opportunities after that to take part of this discussion. So Loic, thank you very much for this overview. I would like to go to the next block of this workshop, and we'll have some examples of two cities that have short-term pollution issues and different status of experience with digital solution, which are Paris and Berlin. So I'm very happy first to invite Jean-Pierre Tabuchy, who is a technical advisor of the Territorial Strategy Direction from CIAP, and which is the Greater Paris Sanitation Authority, and Sofia Husni, who is a project manager at the Innovation Direction, to give us the first presentation of this what happens in the Paris region. So Jean-Pierre, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Pascal. Good morning to everybody. Thanks to the organizer for the invitation. So I will introduce our presentation with Sofia. This presentation is about digital tools developments for basin sites management in Paris region, with the support of H2020 fundings, but also the Seine-Normandie Water Agency and City of Paris. After my introduction, I will give the floor to Sofia Husni, who is the project manager at CIAP. CIAP is the Greater Paris Sanitation Authority, as Pascal said. So just a few comments on the pictures that are on the screen. At not all times, people used to swim in the Seine River in Paris region, and but the Seine River pollution grew with population growth, and this led to the end of this water use. Nevertheless, a few decades later, a water policy for the water quality recovery was implemented, and thanks to these efforts, the Seine River quality has hugely improved. And in 2015, the city of Paris and the Seine-Saint-Denis department applied with success for the organization of the 2024 Olympics. And one of the elements of the application file was the organization of the triathlons in the Seine River at the footage of the Eiffel Tower. And as a legacy of these Olympics, the implementation of permanent swimming places in Paris and in its suburbs. That is one of the main outputs of these Olympics. And on another end, thanks to the cooperation between SIAP and Berliner Wasserbetrieb, the Competence Zentrum Wasser Berlin offered to SIAP to join Berlin, Copenhagen, Milano, and Sofia in a consortium that applied to an H20 call for project dedicated to digital transformation in water management. The Parisian project was dedicated to the development of digital solutions for management of bathing sites. These solutions relies on prediction tools and web applications for bathing sites manager and for the information of the large public. And one of the objectives of this digital solution is to optimize the opening time of bathing sites with the highest reliability as possible. And with these tools, regarding to the previous presentations, may raise the question of how relevant is the current assessment of water quality based on the centile 19 of the water quality. If we have smart tools which helps to have largest or smaller but reliable opening time, it would be more economic for the expenses. So that's my introduction, and I will give the floor to Sofia.
Thank you, Jean-Pierre, for this introduction, and good morning, everyone. In order to reach those goals, we have multiple development access with multiple partners that we're working with in this Digital Water City project. So at SIAP, we are working in collaboration with Sorbonne University and the Competence Zentrum Wasser Berlin on two topics. So first, the modeling of the bathing water quality, which is actually the subject of the PhD of Paul Dupin at SIAP, and also the development of the prediction tool of the bathing water quality. We are also collaborating with INRAE, who is studying the sociological issues linked to the dissemination of water quality. And finally, Fluidion is developing a measurement system alert of fecal indicator bacteria, E. coli, and intestinal enterococci. So to sum up, as Jean-Pierre said, we have 4 deliverables in the French case. So Fluidion is in charge of the development of the measurement tool alert. KWB is developing the prediction tool for the Paris region in collaboration with SIAP and Sorbonne University. And finally, we are developing via a provider 2 applications, as Jean-Pierre said, an expert, well, the first app we call the expert app, which will be for the bathing site managers, and the other one will be the public app for the French citizens. So in order for you to have like an idea of the general concept of this early warning system, so you're going to have on one part some data that are fed continuously to the prediction tool, which will allow you to produce the prediction of the bathing water quality. And those predictions, along with additional information, are going to be sent into the first application that we call the expert app, which is actually a dashboard that will reunite all of the information that the bathing site manager needs in order to make an informed decision whether to open or close a bathing site. And afterwards, this decision, along with practical information, are going to be available on the public app for the French citizens to know the status of the bathing site of their choice. As for the measurement tools, alert or others, they can be used to, well, confirm the prediction that are produced by the prediction tool. They can be available in the expert app to help the bathing site manager make his decision, and also on the public app to, well, inform the citizens on the quality of the water they bathing in. So if we take a closer look to the prediction tool, how is it working? So as I said, it's a tool that is being developed by KWB. It's actually machine learning based on a statistical model. So basically the standard application is that it's going to be fed continuously with specific data, flow rates of CSO, wastewater treatment plants and rivers, and also rainfalls data. And well, as its name shows, machine learning is going to be learning from this data. It's going to be evolving according to this data and producing the prediction of the bathing water quality. So the issue that we have here is that this statistical model cannot take into account all of the changes that are going to be operated on the sewage network. And this is where the second model, the deterministic model PROS, on which the PhD at SIAP is working, comes in. So all of the changes that are going to be operated on the sewage network are going to be incorporated into the deterministic model. And it's going to be producing new data, the future quality of bathing water data. And this new data is going to be used to recalibrate the statistical model so that it can produce the real prediction, the future prediction of the bathing water quality. So I'm not going to go into details on the interface that has been developed by KWB, so just to show you, because I know that my colleagues are going to be presenting it later on. So this is the interface that has been developed at KWB. You have where you can manage multiple bathing spots. You can create new bathing spots. When you go on the bathing spots, you have its location. You have all of the data that are available, quality data available for the bathing spot. You can upload additional data and, of course, manage multiple prediction models for each of the bathing sites. You can also manage multiple predictors for the bathing sites, for every bathing site, create a predictor, and also manage multiple feature group. So a feature group, I'm not going to go into details, but it allows you to create finally a polygon that regroups all of the data that you might need for a specific predictor. So in this case, on this video, you can see all of the data that we sent to KWB. And here we are regrouping all of the rainfall gauges. So we're going to name them. And afterwards, when we create a predictor, you can use this feature in the predictor. So as for the application, so what you need to know is that one of the pillars of the DWC project is the implication of the end users in the construction of the tools. So in our case, we have two applications that involve two kinds of future stakeholders. We have the future bathing managers, and we have the French citizens. So in order to build both applications with their implications, we decided to conduct sociological studies. So our colleagues at INRAE conducted some interviews with the French citizens and organized focus groups with diversified groups and asked them what they thought about the opening of bathing site, and also if an application was available, what kind of information were they expecting. And we also created a community of practice, which members are basically the bathing site future bathing site managers and the French partners that are working on the bathing situation in the French region. And their role will be, to tell us the content of the app, for the expert app, what kind of information they need to make the decision, and for the public app, what kind of information they want to share with the public. So as for the app development, as I said, the provider has been enrolled by SIAP, who is participating to the community of practice meetings and the focus group, which allow them to create the specification as a matter of content, design, and technical specificities for both applications, and afterwards developed mockups and prototypes. Well, for now, we have mockups for each application that have been validated by the community of practice. And here, so you have quickly wanted to show you first overview. So this is actually the expert application, which need an ID and the password to connect, of course. So when you connect, you arrive into a dashboard that shows you all of the information that the bathing site manager might need to make a decision, the procedures, the phone book, you have the bacterial analysis, the predictions, the rainfall, the frequentation, how many people are there, the flow rates, of course, and the vision of all of the bathing sites. you have the ability to have alerts if there's any issue on any bathing site or any a wastewater treatment plant or a CSO. It can be available on this dashboard. You have the profile of the person that is in charge of this and the ability to manage multiple bathing sites on one dashboard. And afterwards, each path allows you to see all of the data that you need on any period that you want, an export of all of this data. You can select the tools that you want to see and also launch measurements if you have like measurement tools on the bathing site. For the rainfall, it has been like quite difficult because there are a lot of rainfall gauges on the Paris territory. So you have the ability to choose which rainfall you want and also select directly onto your profile your favorites so that it can be shown directly on your page. The rainfall, flow rates, the frequentation, the territorial vision to see all other bathing sites, their measurements, the last quality measurements, and finally how to make the decision. So you can select to open up a bathing site, validate, you can send the decision to anyone, the health authorities, and comment why do you decide to take this decision. And finally, you have the historic of all the decisions that have been taken with the comments that you can keep. And as for the public app, quickly, so this is actually the last mockup that we've received in colors and everything. So this is how it's going to be looking like. You have a title, small text with the three status, if it's authorized, closed, or forbidden. You have all of the bathing sites where the address and the status, and the ability to see more if there are more bathing sites. And if you click on the bathing site, well, you go to the page of the bathing sites with the general information, the location. You have a few pictures of the bathing sites, and if you go down, you have the ability to see the specific information, quality information, the comfort, what kind of bathing site is it, the weather, and practical information, if you can like have a picnic, there are toilets and everything. When is it open? How many people are there? Are there any activities in there? And biodiversity, of course. And this kind of application, both the expert and the public, are PWA, so progressive web applications. That means that this vision is also available via your mobile. So this is actually how it's going to be looking like. You have also alerts which show you if there's a problem on the bathing site. The vigilance page that shows you, so we wanted to sensitize people to bathing in open water, show them that there might be like some dangers because of the boats, because of the depth of the river, and to respect, of course, everyone. The alert, so if there's any issue, and also a historic of the last alert that were there. And finally, I think I have the foire à questions, so all of the questions that might be interesting for them to know, the reglementation of bathing, what parameters are followed and why, and the ability to research any information. And finally, the mobile view, which I'm not going to go longer because I think I went too long. So this is how it's going to be looking like on your phone. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Jean-Pierre and Sophia. I think with your presentation, we really have a good overview. I would like to invite everybody who would like to ask something to write the question also during the presentation. You have the possibility to use the chat, and so don't hesitate to use it and to write your question. There is now one question from Emmanuel Soyeux from Veri. And the question is, do you intend to provide also apps for smartphones together with the web apps?
sorry, I can answer if that's okay. So do you intend to provide also apps for smartphones? So actually what I showed you, both applications are going to be available, are going to be adapted on your computer and on the smartphone. So the last view that you saw of the public app, it's actually on a smartphone. So how do you evaluate the bacteria quality? Do you have mathematical samplers? So the idea of the expert app is that all of the data that the bathing site manager needs are going to be available in one unique place. So he's going to be deciding the bacteria quality. He's going to be deciding at which threshold he's going to be authorizing the bathing. And he's going to be deciding if he wants to have mathematical samplers on his bathing site. And the idea is that if he has mathematical samplers on his bathing site, all of the data of those samplers are going to be available on the expert app. And no, the public app is not available yet. Sorry.
Under development.
There is a question on from Paul Raftery. Do you use data buoys to send water quality data?
Data buoys, the base, do you mean, or?
Buoys, I think, buoy.
Oh.
I think.
I do not know how to answer this question, buoy.
Yes. It's a question on the monitoring. What kind of monitoring you are going to use? I think, and
the in situ
use and share this data.
The in situ monitoring.
Yes, I think.
Well, there are multiple tools that exist today. You're going to have a presentation by our colleague from Fludians, Dan Angeliscu, that develops one of the in situ water quality measurements. So he's going to show you what exists. And I think that Miguel also is going to be presenting another kind of measurement tool. And what type, amount of observed data and CSO flows and concentration data available to the system, how much is based on literature values.
So I think, yeah, just go on, Sophia.
What?
No, I was ready to answer to this question.
You can go. You can go.
So the idea, because it's a statistical model and it with machine learning, so what appears to the data treatment is that the most relevant information is flow rather than concentration. So that is the result of the data process to have these the most relevant information, which are CSOs and rainfall data and the river flows and sewage treatment flows. So we don't need to know exactly what is the concentration at the outlet of CSOs. If you want to add some other comments, Sophia, you can do that.
Françoise Lika is asking, will it be an open app that could be modified to interface to additional models data entries? So the idea for the digital-water.city project is that we are developing the application that we are developing are like basic. We want to provide like the basic information for the future bathing site manager, but we know that most of our colleagues, most of the institutions that we are working with are developing their own tools, models, or are using their own data. So the idea is to provide a basic tool, and afterwards, of course, if they want to connect their models to this tool, it might be, it will be possible. And is there enough observed bacterial data points in bathing waters to train machine learning models? So that's actually a good question. That's why we are working. That's actually the subject of Paul Dupin's PhD, the model that he's working with, the deterministic models. He has the ability to create data at any points of the Seine and Marne rivers. So even if a bathing site tomorrow wants to open up and they don't have enough data to calibrate the statistical model, the idea is that, well, we hope, is that we can use the deterministic model to create data that can be used to calibrate the statistical model. The papers are in preparations.
Okay. There's still one question.
Does the simulation consider how potential visitor will choose other basin sites after the closure of bathing sites? I don't think so. The two data that the model takes into account are the flow rates, as I said, and the rainfall. So it will not be taking into account the visitors of the bathing sites.
And I would like to ask you something again. I've seen in your dashboard that it was possible for the public to send some messages. And is it because that's one of the important point that has been addressed from the beginning? It's important to have this citizen empowerment, and the question is, who is going to answer this question? Who is going to gather this question? Because it may be an issue. Is it organized now, or how do you want to organize that?
So there is indeed, I did not comment on that, a small button at the end of every bathing site page that says contact us. So if there's any issue or comments, I'm also answering one of the questions, feedback function included that allows the public to make comments, suggestions. So this is actually the way. So we did not want to give the opportunity to the public to write anything and to send anything, because we did not want the bathing site manager to receive a huge amount of papers, of questions. So the idea behind this page is that it's going to be like a pre-written page that will allow you to select the bathing site. There's going to be there might be a list of thematics of issues if there's the surveillance is not going on, or there is a boat passing through and it was not, I don't know, there's going to be thematics. So the citizen is going to be able to choose the bathing site, choose the thematic, put his name, of course, and the address so that he can be contacted, and a small message that can be sent directly into the bathing site manager so that he can answer the issue directly and prevent any problem.
Okay, thank you very much. I propose now to invite Sebastian Hoppe, who is working at the Regional Office of Health and Social Affairs in Berlin. He's group leader and acting head of the unit for water hygiene and environmental health protection, surveillance and epidemiology of infectious disease. His presentation will be on the bathing water management using an early detection system in Berlin on the changes, benefits, and outlook. So, Sebastian, yes, I see that you're now sharing your slides. So please, you can start now. Thank you.
Okay, well, I think now you can hear me and you might see me, I hope. Okay, thanks. Thank you very much, Pascal, for the kind introduction. I hope it's working. Yeah, I'm going to tell you a little bit about bathing water management in Berlin, and by using this early detection system. So, okay. And yeah, as Pascal said, I'm a group leader for water hygiene and environmental health protection, and also acting head of a unit that also encompasses surveillance and epidemiology of infectious diseases currently. This is at the regional offices of Health and Social Affairs in Berlin, or in German, the Landesamt für Gesundheit und Soziales, or short for LAGESO. Now, on the right-hand side, you can see a map, and it might look familiar because we saw a similar mock-up presentation in the last talk from Paris, which was also basically taken from this. So we are working on the bathing water management, the surveillance and monitoring of bathing sites and natural water bodies. That's our responsibility in Berlin. And we have 39 bathing sites, all represented by these little colored dots on the map on the right. And you can look at this, this map, and there are lots more information, and it looks in some ways similar to what you just saw in the last presentation from Paris. You can look it up under by going to that URL that is presented beside the below the picture. Now, as you've heard a lot about, you just heard a lot about the whole early detection approach and modeling. So here in Berlin, we also use a statistical model that is basically similar to the one in Paris. It's also been created by the KWB, by Wolfgang Seiss and Pascal Rouault, who and Wolfgang, I think, will talk a little bit more about this maybe later on, or about some other aspects. So this was done during a project which was called River Hygiene or Flusshygiene. It was funded by the Federal Ministry of Education and Research. It lasted from 2015 to 2018. There were several partners involved, not only the Kompetenzzentrum Wasser, but also the Berlin Water Supply Agency, so the Berliner Wasserbetriebe, Inter3, the German Environmental Agency, the Technological Foundation here in Berlin, who are responsible for the presentation here for this website, and also the State Ministry for Environment, Traffic and Climate Protection. Now, the LAGESO entered this whole process on a later stage as an associated partner. We did provide data that was needed for the statistical modeling, so historical data, current data, and we were also kind of in a stakeholder position in order to then use the model and to implement that as an application for bathing water management as an early detection system for that region in the Lower Havel. The Lower Havel is very susceptible to short-term pollution events, so it was an ideal site to test this and to apply this to that region. And then obviously after the project, we are also exploring options to permanently adopt this tool and to keep it around and to use it permanently. During the project, early on, there were two bathing sites, the Grunewaldturm and the Kleine Badewiese, that were first modeled, and later on we then added 3 additional sites. Now, the model or the early detection system basically is there are 2 different parts of it. The one is the statistical model, the other one is the entire digital infrastructure with the front end, the back end, and also with a website showing the people basically similar to what we just heard in the other talk, the public app, so that for the public to be informed, to go onto this site to get more info on the bathing site, but to also see whether or not we recommend bathing or we do not recommend bathing. Now, what are some of the benefits when using or when applying an early detection system to that kind of bathing water management? I'm trying to summarize that here in that slide. It's basically, first of all, one of the key features is time and speed. So as compared to the usual approach that we do, you take a sample, you bring it to the lab, you wait 2 days till you get the results, and then you can react. Having a prognosis model, it really helps you because you get an assessment daily and there are no gaps, right? You can really assess each and every day. You can assess the weekend, and you have a very quick reaction or turnaround time. So this is really key to the whole process, because with bathing sites that are susceptible to these short-term pollution events, you could take a sample on a Wednesday when you had a pollution, let's say you had a pollution event that started on a Tuesday afternoon. You take the sample on a Wednesday morning, you get the results on a Friday, and the results will show you, oh, this is not a good bathing water quality. You have to close the bathing site, or you have to at least not recommend going there. And so all these little dots will turn to yellow. But the fact is, on a Friday, the pollution has already passed probably. And so all the people that want to go swimming there on a weekend, when you have 35 degrees outside, probably will not go, or will go somewhere else because you have that alert. And so that's really one of the key benefits and advantages of that. And also that helps to reduce the management tasks for us as an agency. And obviously it helps in reducing the costs, because you do not need to increase the frequency as much of the sampling, and you will never get close to what you can achieve with a daily prognosis. And on the right-hand side, you can see two examples of that. The first red and circled shows you actually an event where this matches. So the sampling showed a higher value, a low bathing water quality, basically, and the same is true for the prognosis. And then the second red, what I encircled in the second part there, this is actually something where you can see that the samples were just taken right before and right after the pollution event. So if you just rely on the sampling, you completely miss that pollution event. But with the prognosis tool, you can see that. Okay, now, what are some of the current challenges, or what are also future challenges in regards to the whole idea of using early detection tools and using digital solutions in bathing water management? Now, I think, first of all, what is really important is that there are different boundary conditions that you have to acknowledge. Now, one is the model, the prognosis model, which is kind of at the heart of things. Does it fit? Is it good? And will it remain to stay that way? So if parameters change, if outside conditions change, then you might have to reevaluate that model. So this is something that you need to consider. There's also the complexity of the technical implementation. And this is a picture taken from the Technology Foundation from GitHub, on the bottom there, which just shows you the kind of digital infrastructure that is all part of that Berlin system. And so there are all different kinds of modules and different types of digital things involved, and it's really important to keep that in mind, that it's not just a small part that generates some numbers and then you will have a nice website, but there's a lot involved, and this complex work needs to be considered. And then there's the legal framework, and we heard it this morning that obviously you have the European Bathing Water Directive, and then you have the national directive resulting from that. And so if the legal framework changes, you might need to reevaluate the entire early detection system to see what you need to do. Do you need to do some adaptation? Do you need to use different limits because the limit changes, or parameters, new parameters are included, and so on and so forth. And in order to achieve all of that, and this can be quite challenging for a government agency, you really need people that bring the knowledge and expertise on the modeling side and on the IT kind of side, on the technical implementation. You need to include fail-safe mechanisms and controlling. For instance, what happens if one of those jobs that fetches the data each and every day. If that doesn't work, then you need to have some kind of a red light going on saying, look, your prognosis is not up to date. It's not it didn't use the data from today, but it used the data from yesterday or from the week before. And you just need that reliable, robust digital infrastructure, and you need to have the flexibility. You need to have people that are able to make changes to your model, to your entire infrastructure, if and when changes in these boundary conditions occur. And I think that is one of the key challenges, because very often you don't have these type of people. You do have them during a research project at hand, but when you go into the permanent implementation in terms of government agencies, usually it's very hard to get people with that kind of skill set. Okay, last slide. The outlook and the roadmap, just briefly, or more like, where are we in the current process? So I said there was the development in 2015, 2018. Then we started this kind of trial in 19. We added additional sites. The website that you saw, the map, is now integrated into the official Berlin website layout. And now we're currently talking with the Technology Foundation how to implement this digital infrastructure that you saw on the slide, or parts of that digital infrastructure, in order to make this whole tool available long term. Thanks a lot for your attention, and looking forward to any questions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sebastian, for your very nice presentation. And I think it was a really good overview of what happened in Berlin and the changes that you now have. As we can see, it's a long time between 2015 and 2022 to develop this trust and everything. So that's really nice to see that it's really a process of digitalization, and that you did. I think I was there from the beginning, so I can say it was, for me, it's a very nice story. There is a lot of trust, which is really important to have that. And for us, for researchers, it's a very nice situation if the things that you are developing during a research project is going to be applied and then used. So that's really how the way it should be. And that is the way it is now, and so we are really happy for that. But you were talking about the challenges that you have, and one of them is the expertise of the people working. So it's one of the main challenges that everybody has now linked to the digitization, and so that means of course that we have to think about what is going to happen at school, what is going to, there's some changes that they are needed to be done from the beginning. So we have to really talk about our education. So that's a dimension that haven't been addressed today. But I think that's a dimension that is really crucial now. We were talking about some other directives linked to environment. We were talking about Green Deal, but I think we really need to link that to education, of course. And I can really understand your issues and your worries about that. There is one question, or there are some more questions on that. I don't know if you want to begin. The first one is, do people notice in the public app that how frequent parameters were measured? Because as you say, I don't know if it's a question for you or it was a question for Sophia. But there was a question on how to inform the public in short events.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Well, you saw that map and these colored dots. So basically, what happens every day is the data is fetched, the different data that goes into the statistical model. The statistical model makes an assessment. It is then we're also looking at the measurements, the sample values that we have, but these are only weekly, and we have daily prognoses. And then if it says that there is some kind of increased concentration or the probability is high, then it will turn to yellow. And so we're trying to get the public to use the public app more and more. You could always try to get a press release. And if this is an ongoing thing, we do press releases, but we don't necessarily do a press release every time that the early detection system switches. It depends on the frequency, but yeah, generally they are just informed by looking at the website, and we try to promote using that site, especially, as I said, there are no gaps, and the weekends, you know, there's no one working on in a public office on a weekend. So if there's something happening, let's say on a Saturday, because then people can look it up before they go and take their kids to the bathing site, and they can see, okay, now today maybe I go someplace else. Okay. There's the next question. Is there the plan to develop these warning systems for more bathing spots around Berlin, or are the other spots not as hygienically risky like the Lower Havel? Yeah, thanks. Yeah, a colleague, yeah. And the question is meant excluding the city center. Okay, yeah, well, the city center might be an intriguing area, but we're not talking about that. No, I think most of the other areas are not as susceptible to these short-term pollution events. And it really is, this is really the key. I think the power of this tool really shines when you're looking at bathing sites that are within areas that tend to be influenced by short-term pollution. So other sites are manageable. So currently there are no plans to expand this to further bathing spots. Might it happen at some point if digitalization, you know, becomes a bigger and bigger thing? Sure, why not? But currently there are no plans to do it. Okay, then is the forecasting and information system also used for non-designated bathing sites? No, currently not. Is this going to be implemented in other cities in Germany? I don't know. I don't know. We had, well, I mean, there is well, yes, there are some. But I don't want to, maybe Pascal has to stop me if I don't want to take anything away from maybe Wolfgang's talk later on. I don't know if he's going to, well, there has been some ongoing discussions also with the German Environmental Agency and others, and Berlin has kind of been like a, like a prototype, and there are ideas to provide other all the other cities and areas in Germany with a tool to set up something similar. And we saw that in the Paris in the Paris talk, where you could kind of like on a map draw these sections and select different infos and different parameters. So in order to kind of quickly generate a model that you could use for bathing sites. Yeah. Okay. We don't have an app. No, there's no app, but it's it should work also on a mobile.
Okay. So the decision not to have an app was because we were worrying about having too many apps on the mobile, and that was a decision that has been taken at the beginning of the project, but something something new. I have only one comment. It's on this. If there is a forecasting information system used for non-designated bathing sites. No, there is no, because it's really simple. The reason why is because we don't have any data on that. You need data to develop the model. And it's impossible to only develop a model without data. So that's why it's a really nice way to go to the next step, but which will be on the monitoring solution that we have from basin sites, and which is really important that we get this data before developing a model. So I would like to thank you all for all this presentation, to thank you all to be in the time. We now have a short break, and we then continue at 10:50 with this workshop. So we have now about a 10 minutes break, and to go back with some really interesting presentation about monitoring, and then about this going deeper into this modeling solution. So thank you everybody, and see you in 10 minutes.
Hello, Loïc. Or Pascal.
Yeah.
Is it possible that we that I briefly check the presentation mode?
Yeah. Okay. Now that's Luigi is calling me, so I have to come back.
No, I'm here, it's fine.
Okay. Sorry.
I was looking after how to come back to Zoom.
Okay.
Now you see only...
You have to screen?
We don't have the presentation mode.
If you have two screens, I advise you to start by making it in, you start your presentation mode, and after you share the screen where it pops.
Okay. I just have one screen right now. I try there again, like...
No, we just see directly the document, not the presentation mode.
Okay. So I will briefly change my location to a place where I have two screens.
Can I try to share the presentation again? So I would check if it's okay.
Yeah. The floor is yours during the break.
Can you see it
Yeah.
now? Is it working? Yes?
Yeah, it works well.
Perfect. Thank you.
Pascal?
Yes.
Hello, good morning. Can I also just try to share my screen, please? Because sometimes I have some problems with the graphical.
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
So I do not see your screen. Yes.
Okay, it's
but that's not the presentation mode. Huh?
Now I'm going to change it.
Yes.
Oh, and now it's not working. Okay, so I think I need to share my entire screen.
Yes.
This is the trouble that sometimes I have.
Yes.
Now
Yes.
Now it's working. Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, then I will try it again.
Wolfgang, your turn.
Okay.
So now presentation mode.
No, this doesn't work. I actually have no idea.
What are you sharing? Do you have two screens or do you have only one?
I have one screen.
Okay.
And I'm sharing, I tried both ways. Once only the PowerPoint presentation, and one time the full screen. And both of which seem to have problems right now, or I cannot switch into presentation mode.
Or you can share a PDF.
Yeah, I have some animations and so on. It would be a little bit of a pity.
That's right. But you are sharing the application and not the screen. It's important that you are sharing PowerPoint, but not the screen.
No. So now I try it like this. Does it work?
Yes, it works.
Okay, then I'll try to. Okay.
Yeah, works well.
Louis,
Yes,
should we share the first answers of the survey?
you can if you want. Up to you.
Or some information on that?
Yeah, maybe you don't need to share the slide, but you can share the main results.
Yes, the information, yes.
I was just thinking quickly, was checking the next poll. The first two questions is about the advantages and disadvantages of digital solutions.
Yes.
I was wondering if we should not relate it a bit more to the discussion, no? Or maybe the link with the revision of the Bathing Water Directive, because it's a bit generic, no, in terms of advantages. This has been presented in many presentations today.
Yes. Yes, and we would like to share that at the end, only during the discussion, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, people will then fill it up, and then we
Yes.
can collect the information.
Yes. Because it's a question that should be discussed at the end, and that's why we wanted to share it with the people.
Yeah, I was just thinking if maybe we just reformulate in what is the relevance of digital solutions for the Bathing Water Directive or for policy compliance. So not too generic, what is the advantage of digitalization, but maybe something a bit more focused on the topic of the discussion. What do you think?
Yes. Yes.
I mean,
But
as you want, it's really
the relevance is more I think it's more global than advantage and disadvantage. You would shorten the question only to have one. Huh?
I would have deleted disadvantage because also it's a lot of questions. So I would have deleted disadvantage, keep only advantage, and maybe relate it more just to the policy compliance. So maybe we don't get too wide.
Mm. Yes.
But actually, I mean, if we can let it like this, it's not a big difference anyway.
Big issue, yes.
No.
Okay. We can start again, or?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. I have heard now that we are live again, so very happy to welcome you again, and only to give you a short overview first of who is attending this workshop, and that's the result from the survey that we had. The first question that we asked was, from which sector are you from? And it's really interesting that we can see that about 44% of the answers are from the research field. That's what we are seeing at the moment. Most of this of the solutions that we are presenting are tested now, demonstrated now, and so there is a high interest from the research. But we have 16% from policy. So I'm very happy about that, to really have this action, this active discussion. We have 21% of people responsible for bathing water management. So it's great, really great. And we have 19% of technology providers and 12% of others. So we have a really nice mix. And so that's why I think that's really a very good information and really good thing for this workshop. We asked, are you familiar with the digital solution for bathing water management? And about half of the people told that yes. So that's great. And we have some interested people because half of the people are not familiar. So it's great to have this open-minded and to look at what is discussed now. The last question was, which digital solution do you know? And so then we, that's really good, because we collected in this point many information, as we have people addressing some sensor from scan. We have people addressing, knowing some laboratory measurements, PCR for E. coli, also cyanobacteria, and so on. So that's really interesting. That's something that we are going to collect and to look at, so that we are not going to reduce the result of this workshop to the presentation that we had now. So we are moving now to the second part of the workshop. And we are beginning with innovative monitoring solution for bathing water management. The first presentation that we'll have will be given by Miguel Gillon-Ritz, who is head of the unit large water cycle and water quality, water and sanitation department of the city of Paris. So we are going back to Paris, and his presentation is about the experience with Coliminder. It's the feedback of a 2-year experiment in Paris. So Miguel, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Pascal, and thank you for the invitation. Good morning, everyone. So as Pascal said, I will present you feedback from a 2-year experiment in Paris. And to begin, as you may not know, you can already swim in natural water in Paris, as we have a bathing area opened in the canal since 2017. But our next objective is to host triathlon and open water swim competitions in the Seine River in Paris for the next Olympic Games, and to be able to give to the citizens permanent bathing areas in the Seine River as a legacy of this event. So in order to manage properly our bathing sites, we identify a need for an early warning system able to detect pollution before it reaches the bathing area. As I just said, we already have a successful experiment in Paris with a La Villette Basin area, where we can swim in natural water, as I said, and where we use daily monitoring with alert system. This tool gives us the opportunity to have 9 result analysis within 9 to 14 hours, and we do 3 analyses a day, and the results from the previous day helps us to determine if the bathing area can be open or not. But in the Seine River and in the Marne River, which is just upstream, the context is different. We face a different environment where the water quality can change very quickly. We notice higher, quicker variation of the quality. And we also have higher velocity flow. So we need a result within short term. It's a different context that we have here, and with the goal of nearly real-time results. Here is some of the criteria that help us to look for devices which were more suitable for this context. So we were looking for a device able to measure contamination within 1 hour, and with the possibility to analyze both parameters, E. coli and Enterococci, with wireless transmission of data and avoidance of cross-contamination between successive samples. So we did a few experiments with different devices, and one of them was a Coliminder, which is able to analyze river water on both parameters, and which is able to do up to 1,200 samplings without maintenance. And the results are available within 15 to 30 minutes, with a good comparability with standard lab analysis. One of the maybe the disadvantages of this device could be that it has to be installed in a closed and power supplied space. So it can be less flexible than other devices. Here is some cost elements and a picture to illustrate how we implemented the device in an electrical cabinet on a boat. And here is a map of where we implemented the devices. We conducted a 2-year campaign. The first one was in 2020, where with the deployment of one device on Alma Bridge, which is located just here. And second campaign was conducted in 2021 with the deployment of 4 devices on Alma bridges and Tolbiac Bridge on both parameters, E. coli and Enterococci. So we were able to based on these campaigns, the results of these campaigns, we were able to determine a satisfactory correlation with the lab results on E. coli. You can see the results on this graphic, and also on Enterococci. But if we take a closer look on the results, here is a graphic, an illustration of 2-hour analysis results on E. coli parameter, which is a downgrounding parameter on the Seine River. So we can see 2 advantages of such a tool for us. The first one is to give us a better understanding of the water quality of the river. For example, you can see here the rainfall and the impact of the rainfall on the water quality, and the time to go back to normalcy, I mean, under the water quality requirements to swim in the water. And so that's the first advantage. And the second one is to be able to identify time range where the water quality requirements are met. And for example, during last summer, which was a rainy summer in Paris, you have here the results of 2 hours campaign from mid-July to mid-September. And we were able to identify that 60% of the time, the water quality requirements are met as based on sufficient threshold. And if we look on the percentile values calculated based on the directive calculation, and based on the weekly samplings that we took in 2021 summer, we noticed that the requirements for bathing were not met on both parameters. But if we use high frequency samplers, as I showed you earlier, we would have been able to identify time ranges with sufficient water quality to bath. So we identify such device as a useful tool for us to optimize water management, where the water quality is more subject to variability, and especially in urban areas like Paris, where we can find higher risk of wastewater overflows during the rainy days or rainy periods. And finally, I wanted to point out some ideas for maybe we can discuss later in the workshop. First of all was the need and the request of international sport federations to have water quality results within 24 hours, which is not compatible with standard lab analysis. And maybe the need for guidelines for sport events or aquatic activities, which are not permanent bathing site. And finally, the need for digital tools like modelization or complementary analysis device, as we are discussing now. So thank you for your attention, and if you have any question, do not hesitate.
Yes, thank you very much, Miguel, for this very nice presentation, and to see that you tested some different devices and saying that you have some a large experience with that. And there is I think there is a first question that have been addressed before your presentation, and it was about is it really an issue? Do you know some problems? That was a more general question. Is there somewhere a system in place that allows to know if people actually get sick after bathing and why they got sick? So I do not know any, but what I know, for example, from the past, that are sport events, and after the sport events, many people were sick, and that's why now there is this request from the International Sports Federation, of course. I know from this thing, what is really more difficult is really to have the information from the population. Because they don't really do the link between their bathing activities and then that they are getting sick after that. So something they can be they have eaten something wrong or something like that. So the risk is also really high. So it's really difficult to get this information. But I don't know. Perhaps Miguel, do you have some more information from Paris about that?
For people getting sick, we don't have any complaint. For example, in La Villette Basin, we do not know any complaints about people being sick yet. But as you said, maybe it's difficult to do the link. And maybe there is no problem with the water quality, as I showed you, it's excellent water. But it's complicated to maybe to do the link. Maybe it would be easier on a sport event. Maybe if there would be medical monitoring just after the event, it could be interesting.
Yes, and the link between the bad quality and the people getting sick is obvious. There were experiments in the past at some bathing sites, and they were separated two types of people, and they were really there have been some experiments done to really look at the influence of E. coli and to this the illness. So there is a link, but it's really difficult to get it now from the praxis. Is there any other question? Good. There was a question about of the devices you are using, and the question was as why the equipment was put on the boat?
The equipment was on the boat because we need a shelter, like it has to be protected from rain, for example, and you need a power supply. So it could have been installed maybe on the bank, but it was easier for us to put it on the boat.
Yes, so
it was also more secured because the machine, the boat is closed during the night, for example. So it's for more security as well.
Mm. So it's an issue that you are addressing, taking the decision to protect the devices that you have. Huh?
Sorry, again?
You are because it's an issue that is always discussed. If you have some online monitoring somewhere, and to have do you have some problems? Is it going to disappear or not? So I don't know really what kind of experience have been done on that. I'm not sure that the problem is so high as is discussed, but it could also be interesting to discuss this point. So by now there's no other question, and I would propose that we are going further with the presentation given by Dan Angelescu, with CEO and R&D Director of Fluidion. And the presentation is on the accurate, fully automated in situ microbiology using alert technology, validation data, and field development exchange. So Dan, please, you can start.
Thank you very much, Pascal. Can you see my screen okay? Great. It is a pleasure and an honor to present here. Thank you very much for inviting us. So I'm going to talk about the Alert V2 technology that we recently developed and perfected and tested. And I'm going to present validation results as well as installation examples. So very quickly about Fluidion. We are a technology development company for water quality instrumentation. We have 2 offices in Paris and in Los Angeles. And we are a vertically integrated company in the sense that all the technologies we develop them on science that we develop, protocols that we develop, and then prototypes, and then we provide complete solutions, including the data transmission. We're also very deeply rooted in science. We publish a lot of our results, and we have a lot of publications on our website and in peer-reviewed journals. So we are trying to be transparent and try to have all our results validated by third parties. So waterborne disease is a real problem. Obviously, drinking water, that is a real issue in developing countries. But in countries that are developed, there are problems with water quality related to bathing water and also related, to irrigation. Essentially, any possibility where pathogens from water can get into the human body is a potential problem for public health. So we have developed several instruments to address these issues. So we have developed what you see here at the top. It's our Alert V2. It's the latest in situ analyzer that we developed. And it has a number of nice features. So it is fully autonomous. It operates on a battery that's inside the device. It samples inside single-use cartridges. It transmits the data wirelessly. It can float like a buoy, or you can install it on a rail. It's really easy to install. Basically, the device is operational as soon as you put it in the water, and it can sample and send you the measurement results within a few hours. In addition to that, it can be connected to additional water quality sensors that can monitor any water quality parameters. You can, for example, monitor for conductivity, turbidity, pH, dissolved oxygen, nitrate, ammonia, chlorophyll, or phycocyanin, which is the signal for cyanobacteria. Another related technology is the Alert Lab, and here we have different types of devices that can measure up to 6 samples or up to 16 samples. This is at the end of development, and these are portable analyzers, so they're complementary to the in situ instrument. This is an example of installation for the Alert V2, the in situ instrument. As you can see here, it can be installed as a floating buoy, so it's as easy as attaching it with a chain, or it can be attached on a rail. In this case, this is an example from the Seine River in Paris, where we work with the City Hall of Paris and with the teams of the teams of the City Hall of Paris, and Mr. Guillaume Ritz presented that work just before. On the left side here, you see the bottom of the device, you see the 7 sampling ports, and each sampling port corresponds to a single cartridge like this. And basically this cartridge is where everything happens. So the sample is drawn in through this port, it mixed with the reagent, which is here. The mixture is raised inside this cartridge, and we have check valves and we have an optical cell here where we perform the incubation and the optical measurements. We have a lot of published data about side-by-side analysis. This is the very first article we published. It's in a collaboration with the CIAP, and it looks at different surface water sources in the Paris region and at side-by-side analysis. This is also in a collaboration with CIAP. In this case, we're looking at wastewater plant water from influent all the way to effluent, and we look at side-by-side measurement, you know, at clarified influent after the decarbonation stage, etc. So we can see basically how much the bacteria decrease at every treatment stage, including the final disinfection. So the device is quite universal. It can be used in any type of water matrix. The data here is part of the Digital Water Cities project, and it is data actually obtained by KWB in Berlin earlier, well, in the fall last year. So here we're looking at side-by-side measurements and a repeatability study. And you see that we get perfect correlation with the lab. The only adjustment here, we had to do a single point offset correction, and then all the points fit perfectly, and we get really side by side perfect correlation, and we get actually also very good precision. The vertical error bars are the precision of the alert instrument, whereas the horizontal error bars are the precision of the laboratory. So you can see that we are comparable in precision for low concentrations, and for high concentration, actually the alert system becomes quite a bit more precise than the laboratory method. A number of examples of installations. So these are installations from Paris area. On the left side, you see an installation we did last summer of the Alert V2 in the Seine River. And in the middle and on the right, you see the installations we have at La Villette. So in the middle is showing the swimming pools, and at the right, the 2 analyzers that measure E. coli and enterococci, each of them 3 times a day. And the decision is then made by the bathing water managers on whether to open or close the bathing site based on these results. This also shows monitoring data from the Seine River for a whole year. The vertical red lines are essentially the rains. The more intense the red color, the more intense the rain event. And then we have systems installed at 2 locations, at Jena and at Josephine Baker. Jena is close to the Eiffel Tower. So you can see that how the rain events, you know, create big excursion in bacterial concentration. So the biggest rain event here actually made the concentration increase from about 200 to close to 100,000. So it's 3 orders of magnitude excursion, and then it takes several days for it to drop down. So here we measure real E. coli values. We do not measure a correlation with another parameter. So this is really correlated well with the laboratory measurements. This is used by the UK Environment Agency, who monitors swimming sites at Scarborough Bay in this case. So they have a system installed in this unit, and they sample from the bay. And then whenever there is a hit here, the mobile unit of the Environment Agency goes up the different rivers and locates where and who was responsible for the pollution observed in the bay. We have a number of examples here from deployments in the United States. So we work with a Plus Pool project in New York City. So they're going to install a floating pool in the Hudson River. This is the first prototype. It was actually a light sculpture, and the color of the light depended on the quality of the water, which was measured with the alert system. We have deployments with the United States Geological Survey in multiple locations, and as well in Los Angeles, we have devices installed in multiple lakes around Los Angeles. In this case, it's a picture of our Alert V2 at Echo Lake. We also do quite a bit of citizen science with these instruments. In this case, we're looking at Arthur Germain, who is an endurance swimmer who has swum the whole length of the Seine River from the source all the way to the sea, and carrying all of his equipment in full autonomy. And among his equipment, he took one of our alert labs, and he performed the longest series of E. coli measurements ever recorded in the Seine River on the whole length of the river as he was swimming. So he was actually measuring the risk he was taking at every moment along his trip. With that, I would like to thank you very much for your attention. And I would like to remind you that we will have at the IFAT trade show in 2022, so it's on May 31st, we will have a Urban Bathing Water Day at our booth, which is shown here. And we'd like to invite you there to see these instruments in live and to hear about the deployments within the DWC project. With that, I would like to thank you very much for your attention, and I'm ready to take your questions. Thank you.
So thank you, Dan. And yeah, so the IFAT is a nice solution, not only not only to hear from the solution, but also to see them, to have them in the hand, and so and I think it's really interesting to be there and to look at the solution. Is there any question from outside? I think it was a really good presentation, nice presentation to see the different possibilities, the different tests, the way you are working at. There's a question, and I think it's really important. Is the use of the devices for automated microbial measurement already recognized as an official method by the Bathing Water authorities? I think it's a really important one.
It is an important one. So the devices depend very much on the country. There are countries like in the UK, it is the actual Environment Agency that uses the devices to monitor for bathing water. In the United States, we work with, for example, in California, with the California Water Quality Control Board, which are the local state regulators. So depending on the location, they are accepted, they require, justifying why they're used. In the current European regulation, these devices, these devices are not accepted in any of the European regulations currently, and this is one of the things that we hope will change with the new regulations.
And the second question is about the installation of these kind of devices for a marine environment.
Yes, so we have a lot of installations in marine environment, and in some of the places that I've shown you, for example, in the Hudson River, it is a briny environment, so it's a mix of marine and river water. But yes, we do have these devices installed in marine environments, and we have protocols that are a little bit different for marine environments, and we can measure the fecal indicator bacteria in seawater as well. And I think there is another question whether the device is suitable in terms, I think, okay, I guess that's the same device. And is it necessary to calibrate the device for water at each location? So the data that I've shown shows that basically the calibration curve stay the same. You may have a slight offset depending on the location. And on a single point measurement, you can actually remove this offset. This is something that we've shown in the study in Berlin, in which case then you fall exactly on the laboratory data. So not a need for a calibration. The calibration is universal, but there is a need for an offset going up and down essentially. And that one can be adjusted on a single point.
So yes, I think we can keep this, some of the questions for the following discussion, because we are running a little bit out of time, and there are some questions about other parameters and something like that, but we can keep it for the discussion afterwards. So Dan, thank you very much. And I would now like to invite Montserrat Battle, who is a senior innovation specialist by Adasa Sistemas, and she's going to present us the device Aquavario, which is a new tool for bathing water management. So Montserrat, please go on with your presentation. I'm really happy to see it and that you are sharing this information with us now.
Okay, thank you, Pascal. Well, as Pascal said, I'm going to present the Aquavario, that it's a new tool for bathing water management. And I want to show you this picture, that it's a picture from any beach of Barcelona in summer. And this is what happens when there is a CSO in the same beach. And you can see here the big stain of untreated wastewater caused by this the CSO point. This has a lot of consequences in the socioeconomical impact in the beach business, but as well in the sports, leisure, and as well with the health of bathers. And to deal with this problem, in the Water project, we have set 3 different objectives. The objective number 1 was to reduce the amount of floating solids and litter. The objective number 2 was to minimize the health risk of bathers. And the objective number 3, to reduce the number of CSO during a rain episode. So we have tested these solutions in Barcelona for coastal water and in Berlin for fresh water. With the help of several technologies, and Aquavario is one of the technologies I am going to present. We focus with Aquavario on minimizing the health risk of bathers. And Aquavario is an online and automatic measuring device for the measure of the Bathing Water Directive parameters, as it is E. coli and enterococci, as well it measures in freshwater total coliforms. Previously to this project, the Aquavario was tested and approved for reclaimed water, wastewater, and freshwater, and the objectives for E. coli and enterococci, and total coliforms. And in the objectives of the project, we had the adaptation of the device to enterococci measure for both cases, to adapt the measure to E. coli and enterococci for seawater, and to obtain the European verification, that is European technology verification promoted from the European Commission. And how it works, the technological principle of the Aquavario, it's based on the defined substrate methodology in which the sample is incubated with a specific substrate that has leaked a colorless particle. And when the substrate is metabolized, this particle is free in the media. In the case of enterococci and Escherichia coli, the particle free in the media is fluorescent, and in the case of total coliforms, it's a colored yellow particle. These particles are measured by the optical system by colorimetry and fluorescence. And the appearance of the color and fluorescence is measured and monitored continuously. until its detection. At the time in which it's detected, this time is correlated with the initial concentration of bacteria in the way that it's inversely proportional. That means that as much times less bacteria we had in the origin. The main advantage of the Aquavario, it's compared to traditional monitoring that can take from 25 to 96 hours, because you have to analyze one sample, but if in the laboratory, but if the result is bad bad quality, you have to take another sample and wait until you have the result. With Aquavario, you can get results from 3 to 10 hours for 10 hours to be sure that you have a good quality status. And in the Bathing Water project, we have installed 2 different stations in 2 different sites. In one of the sites with 2 intake points, one in the beach and the other one in the CSO point, and another one in the beach. And here you can see in blue the evolution in a daily basis of the concentration of bacteria, and in green the impact of rain, which in which cases you can see that it's not ever the same behavior of the dispersion of the contamination, because it will depend a lot on the point of the CSO happen, and as well the currents, the wind, and other factors. In the case of an intense rain event, the problem is that the beach has to close until the quality has been recovered to a good quality status. And in the case with the in the Aquavario and during the project, we have developed the episode mode that normally the Aquavario is working in a daily basis, every day performs an analysis. And when there is a CSO, it starts to operate in episode mode. And it measures in a continuous way, one sample after the other, until the quality has been recovered. And this can suppose that the beach perhaps can open one day before, and this is very relevant for the economy of the beach. We developed it as well with the Ecodata web-based visualization tool of real time, the results that these results are provided to the administration, in this case the Barcelona City Council, that they integrate this data in their systems. But as well, we developed the tool as a tool to watch the results directly in a friendly way. Another of the advantages of the Aquavario in the project and what we have tested is to validate and calibrate the dispersion models. You can see this picture in this one in yellow and blue, the model and the values of Aquavario. Then the model had to be adjusted to these values, and you can see here 3 examples of different episodes. And on the other hand, during the project, we have compared all the samples with laboratory samples, and the results we have obtained is that in 91% of the samples, the results for E. coli were according to the good quality classification as in the laboratory. And in the case of Enterococci, this value was of 97%. And a very important thing about the Aquavario is the confidence in the obtained results. And this is why we are performing an ETB verification, in which we are comparing the results of the Aquavario with the results of the ISO 9308. following the ISO 17994 for the comparison between microbiological quantitative methods. And we are doing this verification with 3 different matrices. The first one is for reclaimed and wastewater. The second one is for fresh water. These 2 are nearly to finish, and we have started and we are in the way of doing the verification in the matrix 3 for seawater. And as a conclusion, I will say that Aquavario can help to minimize the health risk for bathers, providing daily information about water quality, can improve the management of bathing areas, providing the information in an easy, integrable way in the systems, assuring the safety of the bathers, improve the contamination of dispersion models, providing reliable information and enhances the predictive dispersion contamination models, and all this done in a credible and impartial way that is the tool that ETV provides to this. And that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Montserrat, for this great presentation. So there was a question, there's now a question which is really important, I think, from Françoise Lucas about how long takes this ETV validation process.
Wow, it's a long process at the beginning, but once you have the test plan, it is very easy because you have everything very well explained and how to do it, you know how to do it. But I would say that it's easy to sign this point, but before this point, it takes some efforts, let's say this.
Okay. Is there any other question? There are always this question of vandalism for city places. Is it something that you are discussing as a provider?
About vandalism, you mean? Yes, it was one of the issues at the beginning. We were thinking a lot because vandalism is quite common, and especially you can imagine in a beach, no, where at night happens many things, and it was mandatory to install the devices inside the cabin, inside the shelter to protect them against vandalism. Yeah.
Yes, of course. I think there is no question by now directly, so I would propose to go further. I thank you all for this presentation on monitoring solution. And we are jumping now into the next block about innovative modeling solution for bathing water management, beginning with Wolfgang Seitz, with my colleague and researchers at the Berlin Center of Competence for Water. And the presentation name is an open source application for developing and implementing data-driven early warning system for a river bathing location. So we have heard already from Paris and Berlin from the solution that we have developed at KWB, but now we'll have some new ideas and some new solutions that are developed by now. So please, Wolfgang, that's your turn.
Yeah, thank you very much for the invitation and the opportunity to speak here. As Pascal already mentioned, I would like to present a web application which can also be run locally, which we develop in order to address some of the problems which you may encounter when developing early warning systems for existing bathing waters. So, as we already saw, there are already existing examples where data-driven models, meaning machine learning models or statistical models, are used for daily bathing water prediction and for informing the potential bathers on a daily basis. So we have, for example, examples from Berlin, which was already shown by Mr. Hoppe, and we also have an example from Western Germany at the Ruhr River, but also some famous examples from Scotland and the Scottish Environmental Agency, where such models are already used to predict the bathing water quality in real time to protect bathers' health and to manage short-term pollution events. But as was already also mentioned before, is that many of those approaches were developed during some research projects with intensive monitoring at the specific locations, testing different modeling approaches, and ranging from simple rainfall-based assessment to the application of Bayesian methods to efforts, for example, in California, where they also use machine learning and high frequency samples to inform those models. But what we want to achieve and why we are actually developing this application is that we want to make those methods, especially data-driven approaches, which are based on readily available hydrological data, available for as many bathing places as possible. And so that, for example, decision makers and people working at the administration have the opportunity to check whether these types of models may be a benefit and added value of their respective bathing site. And for this, we actually are working on developing this open source software, which has two basic functionalities. The first one is to construct, train, and evaluate machine learning models to predict bathing water quality, meaning the concentration of fecal indicators over time on a daily basis. But if the modeling or the model construction shows that at a specific location, the model is actually good and suitable to make daily predictions, we also provide the backend structure for making real-time predictions on a continuous basis using existing standards for interoperability between data exchanges, which is already also included in the characteristics of the software, so it's open source. It only uses open source components. We use European standards, which are currently developed for data exchange. And we also want to our predictions be adaptable to the local legislation. For example, in Europe, we have the problem that we actually do not have a single sample threshold, but we actually have bathing water quality defined in terms of the 90th and 95th percentiles. So we need a modeling approach which is able to predict the 95th and 90th percentiles, and also a way to validate that. Also, we want in other locations, for example, in parts of the US, there's also the geometric mean used as a threshold, and in some other locations, there are actually single sample thresholds, and we want our software to be able to make predictions regardless the way water quality thresholds are defined. And it actually has 4 interesting modules, our open source software. So it has a graphical user interface for managing different data sources, for example, rainfall information or flow information of the river. It has a module to summarize the data from different data sources, which I will show you later on. So we can group, for example, rainfall information over a specific catchment or area. We have a machine learning module, And if the model which was trained in the machine learning module is used for daily predictions, we actually have a data transfer model which allows to make continuous predictions once new data is fed into the model. So just to give you some examples how this looks like. So what you see is a map of Paris, and all the light blue points which you see are all different rainfall gauges. All the smaller brown points are the outlets of combined sewer overflows. The large brown points are wastewater treatment plants. There are larger blue points for the river flow information, and the medium blue spots relate to the bathing waters. And what you can do in this application, once you have included the data there, is that you combine in this way, for example, the different rainfall information into a single predictor variable, which is subsequently used to train your model. So you can really configure a model which consists of the bathing spot for which you want to make the prediction, and the predictor variables which you want to use for making the predictions. And once the model is trained, you have you receive an interactive dashboard for evaluating the data. So you will see how good the model is able to fit the training data. You will see how good the model is able to fit the test data. You can also, as you see on the bottom right, use the state picker to see how the model performs in different years, and can analyze different periods in order to see what would have been the effect of applying this model in the past. And once you, for example, if you are satisfied with the model performance, you can switch the bottom to use this model for predictions. And once new data is provided, new predictions are made on a daily basis. You not only get some visual effects, you also get some numbers. So you will get, for example, a table of the most common metrics used for evaluating machine learning models. So how good is the R-squared on the training set? How good is it on the test set? What's the mean squared error? What's the sample size on the training set and the test set? But also very interesting is, for example, how to validate the different percentiles. So if we want to predict the 95th percentile, we want that 95% of our validation data are actually below our 95th percentile. And we also want that 90% of our validation data are below the 90th percentile, and also that 95% are in our 95th percent prediction interval. You also get information about correctly predicted contaminations. When, if they're obvious, in this case, it would be 10 out of 11 observed contaminations which were predicted correctly. So also this model is able to predict correctly contaminations related to event scale contaminations from sewer systems and due to short-term pollution. But of course, this modeling approach is not able to predict correctly any other sort of contamination. Like, for example, if in Berlin, for example, there's sometimes the discussion about contamination of ships and boats, and that they dispose the feces illegally into the river. And of course, such contaminations, our model will not be able to predict. So it is very much designed for managing short-term pollution episodes, which by definition also have to be predictable, right? And to be predicted in order to be a short-term pollution episode according to European legislation. Just for, I don't want to go very much into detail for this. So once you decide to use any of the validated machine learning models for making predictions, we actually developed a secure data transfer backend, which currently uses a technology called FIWARE. I don't know if everyone is acquainted for this. This FIWARE approach actually tries to enhance interoperability in the smart city applications by defining standardized data transfer models. And in our case, in our special case, we use 4 standardized data models, which are considered smart, which are called smart data models. So what we use is water quality observed, water observed, which is, for example, for the river flow, weather observed. So here we use mainly rainfall, but it can also include global irradiance or sun hours. And we also created our new and data model and added it to the list of available data models, which would be water quality predicted, so that all of our predictions would be available in a standardized JSON data type form, so that other applications, for example, expert apps in Paris or other information websites, could directly use the information here. And as you can see, also you see that we publish our results in terms of different percentiles. So you get which you can directly use for comparing it to European regulations, the 90th percentile, the 95th percentile. But you can also add the 50th percentile if you want to use the geometric mean, for example. Yes, and right now we are testing our real-time data transfer protocol this year in Paris. We try to validate our machine learning models at various sites, and we of course are always interested in finding new locations where we can test our applications. So if any one of the participants is the manager of a bathing water and is interested to test our tool at his or her location, then it would be really interesting for us to be able to see to check the quality of our predictions there and to further improve our application. And of course, we are also at IFAD at the 31st of May, and are happy to communicate our latest developments there. Thank you.
Thank you, Wolfgang, for this presentation. So as you all could see, that there are some proposition to support the people responsible for the bathing water management. We have heard before from Sebastian Hoppe that there is some issue concerning the people working in the administration. They are not really aware, so this kind of solution can really support this issue and the people. I think there is also one question from Emmanuel Soyeux. Does your application work also for lakes and coastal water?
So currently we tested it mainly on rivers and it's tested mainly on rivers. So we have to provide the proof that it also works for lakes.
And the second question is really interesting also, is it possible to develop these types of system using only the bathing water compliance data sets?
This is a very interesting question, because we are trying actively working on approaches on how to handle this small data problems, applying modeling techniques which also include not only the data which are collected at the bathing site, but are also including catchment information, asking specific catchment and making some prior assumptions on the water quality, which is subsequently updated with new data becoming available. But this is not yet implemented in this tool, as it has to be checked before. And as you also saw that, for example, in the presentation of Sophia Usni from Paris, we also tried to combine deterministic modeling with machine learning modeling approaches, especially to be able to assess future scenarios. So, for example, you use the deterministic model to simulate a timeline, a time series for the case in which there would be a disinfection at the wastewater treatment unit, which currently there is not existing. So I cannot use the current E. coli data for training the machine learning module, but maybe I can use the outcomes of the deterministic model, which is able to simulate E. coli data for this location. But this is still research, I would say.
Yeah. But in Berlin, it's important to remember that we, at the beginning, we only use the compliance data sets. And with these data sets, we are able to develop the models. But in order to validate the models, we wanted to have some more information, and we had the chance in the frame of a research project to really take some samples that after real events, and to have some more information and to validate the models. But we really first rely only on the compliance data sets.
And maybe one point which I also find interesting is that it's not only the number of data points, but also that it's informative data, because you can collect you can take hundreds of data points under dry weather conditions. If you do not catch rainwater situations appropriately, then your machine model will still learn the wrong things from the data, right? So it's not only the number of data points, but especially how much information each data point brings to your model.
And so at the end, there's a compliment for your work. So I think you can read it, and we can go to the next presentation. The next presentation will be, thank you very much. We still have some discussion after that during the at the end of this workshop. The next presentation will be given by Blanca Aznar from Urban Services, Urban Ecology Operation Direction of Barcelona, on water cycle, and the presentation is on the practical use of bathing water modeling and integrated beach management in Barcelona. So Blanca, thank you very much for addressing this presentation.
Thank you, Pascal, for inviting us to talk about the Barcelona case. First of all, let me to explain you the context of the city. Barcelona has a combined sewer network larger than 1,600 kilometers and focus on solve urban flash floods. Floods were the main problem due to the Mediterranean climate, and also due to the drainage system that goes fast from the mountain to the sea, causing floodings in the lower part of the city. That's why there is a a network of 24 rain gauges that bring in real time the rain data to follow the events, especially watching over the rain intensity. So in average, the annual rain in Barcelona is similar to London, but it rains concentrated in 60 significant rainy days. From these 60 rainy days, just about 10 there is a storm that causes a pre-alert in the warning city system, and just one or two of them are really very big storms and cause an alert in the city council early warning system. That's why also in Barcelona, apart from very big sewers, we have 15 stormwater tanks under surface that are able to keep the waters during these big rain events. Consequently to this very quick concentration time to the flow in the beaches, we have obviously combined sewer overflows. In Barcelona, we have 10 beaches along 4.7 kilometers, and we have around 4 million of users during the bathing season. That goes from May to September. Despite this, all the efforts to collect and treat the wastewater, is inevitable to have combined sewers overflow these days that we call significant rainy days. A warning, early warning system for short-term contamination events is set. Also, the stormwater tanks in this case are very important to reduce the pollution. And for example, during the 2020, we have collected 1,400 tons of suspended solids inside these tanks during the rain events, avoiding to spill of the suspended solids on the receiving bodies. Also, during the bathing season, we have a floatable a collected system with boats that collects waste from the surface. In this picture, you can see in navy blue the main sewers of the city, and in sky blue the secondary sewers pipes, and in orange we have the interceptors. Those interceptors collect the wastewater along the coast and also along the Besòs River and bring into the wastewater treatment plant. But during the storm, the CSO occurs in several points, and along the bathing areas, we have 4 major CSO points: Ginebra, Bogatell, Bac de Roda, and Prim. So to summarize, regarding the average of the 10 last years, around 60% of the significant rainy days, we have a CSO spillage over the bathing areas. So here we have the second big problem nowadays in the sewer system of Barcelona. Very quick, the same objectives as Montse present previously, and the global objective for Barcelona in the IBAT water solution was to reduce to the environmental impact of the churches during the rainy weather about 30%. Also, to complement the information that Montse gave you in the IBAT water solution, we have also installed quality stations, not only Aquavario, also sampling, automatical sampling quality station to monitor the quality, and all the CSO points has obviously CSO measurements to monitor all these spillage. All the the devices that we are installed in the field are integrated in the telecontrol system, in the SCADA system of the Barcelona the CASA of the Barcelona water cycle control center. And to fulfill the second objective, that was minimize the water health risk, a modeling system has been built. This modeling system is based on two models that are complementary. The drainage model that is based on SWIM, and a three-dimensional hydrodynamic and bacterial model that is built with MOHIT. Both are open source models and are used to determine the degree of bacterial contamination in the bathing area during all the year, not only in the bathing season. The drainage model is applied to estimate the volume of CSO depending on the rain detected by the visited rain gauges, and the hydrodynamic model estimates the water microbial quality. The SWIM model covers over 70% of the Barcelona area and includes a simplified modeling of the Besòs River that also brings water from other municipalities. And the model fits quite well, in the CSO points fits quite well with the level measurements that we have from the field. The MOHIT model is an hydrodynamic model developed in the 80s by the Instituto Superior Técnico of Lisbon and the Maritech Research Center. And MOHIT modeling system is a modular three-dimensional finite volume water modeling system using an object-oriented programming philosophy. It's an integrated modeling able to simulate both the physical and the biochemical processes in a water column. The quality model of Barcelona area was developed in 2007 for simulation nearshore bathing areas to study the quality after the CSO events. And this model has been updated in the context of the IBAT water project. To simulate the hydrodynamic processes from the largest scale to the nearshore scale, the model uses a nesting approach. This model has three levels of detail. The third level mesh is the one that is focused on the beaches and considers the CSO volumes with a fixed bacteria concentration. To forecast the bacterial concentration, we compare the model results here with the real measurements from the laboratory and also from the Aquavario analysis. We have integrated these two models into a simulation system platform called Moliva. And how does it work? Moliva is an application that can run in real time, as well as to analyze the past events. In real time, we have programmed a complete simulation each 2 hours, and it is able to reproduce, for example, 24 hours of the last 24 hours and forecast the next 24 hours. First of all, the system imports the data from the Becasa database, the official data from the field, and also the meteorological service. Data is stored in a SQL database. And next, Moliva prepares the input data to run the SWIM model. After some minutes, because this is very, very quick, Swim you can have the flow computed by Swim, and in this picture you see the 4 CSO points and also the Bessos River. Once the CSO volume is computed, Moliva launches the MOHIT model. It takes about 50 minutes to make a 48 simulation, hours of simulation, and it returns the shore water bacteria concentration, E. coli and Enterococci, and also an animated GIF with the contamination plume. The interesting part of this model is that you can forecast when the event is going to finish. And to finish my presentation, allow me to explain the centralized hazard management performed by Becasa from the control center. A warning alert system for short-term contamination events is applied in Barcelona. The alert system is based on 4 levels of warning. The first one is called vigilance and is applied as soon as it rains. The second one is activated when the CSO field level sensors detects an spillage. Then the simulation system starts to compute, and the results are used to set the level 3. That means that it's probable to have a poor bathing water quality. And with the official quality analytics, or in this case, the Aquavario information, we can reach the 4th level. That we have an analytics that says that the quality is not enough according to the European directive. But this takes, and laboratory analysis takes around 48 hours to have the results. So that's why in this case, Aquavario will be very, very useful because it's much quicker. And during the rain events, when the internal city council protocol is applied, the bathing water managers also activate warnings for the citizen, in this case, using the color flags and the electronic panels and the website that are updated also from the Becasa Control Center. And the protocol is disabled when the model basically indicates good quality. More or less in Barcelona, it takes between 24 and 48 hours to recover the good parameters. And that's all for my part. Thank you for your attendance.
Thank you very much, Blanca, for this nice presentation. And it's very a big issue for tourism and for a big city, and to really protect the people, to communicate, and so it's really great to see the work that you have done. There are some questions in the chat about your presentation. For example, is the model model run deterministically, or does it use a unit impact approach?
Is the model always the first question is the coastal model is a deterministic model? Yes, it's a deterministic model, and it's calibrated. This model has been working already in Barcelona for 10 years, more or less. We have updated it, and we have connected the swim model to have better data, because the model, the original one, could work reading the data from the field, but sometimes in real time, the data from the field is not validated online. And you can have also in Barcelona, for example, if the sensors can measure the waves. So you can measure a level that is in fact not a CSO. That's why we are using, for example, the swim model to be sure that the flows that we are using for the MOHIT model are comes from the rain event and not from a wrong measurement of the field. But yes, it's a deterministic model.
I think a very important question is how many years did it take to make all this happen? Because of course that's an issue for many people to think about introducing this kind of solution, which is a special one, of course.
Well, Barcelona from the Olympics starts to manage all the sewer system in a complete different way. So we are very trained with all the warning protocols regarding to floods. That's why to implement an early warning system regarding to the CSO and the bacterial contamination for bathing waters was relatively easy for us because we have applied the same solution to this other issue. The most important thing first is to have some information. As for example, to know when you have your CSO, so to have devices on the field, and to have all this information well stored in a database, etc. The second thing is to have samples to compare. If you build a model, you need to compare your model with your real data. So how many years? Well, once you build the model, no, it's not very well. Maybe in 1 year or 2 years, you can have a complete system that could work online and continuously.
Thank you very much. So let's go to the last presentation given by Marta Rodriguez, who is a research officer by ENEC, which is the Hydraulics and Environment Department, National Laboratory for Civil Engineering. And she will present us a project which is really interesting. It's more than only talking about bathing waters. It's a digital platform for bathing waters management in coastal city, but with some more features. So Marta, really happy to have you on board and to hear for your presentation now.
Okay, thank you, Pascal. Good morning, everyone. So, as Pascal said, I will present a digital platform for bathing waters management in coastal cities that is being developed in the scope of the project Synergia. Okay. Sorry, coming here. Okay. So, as we are all aware, coastal cities face growing challenges, in particular in a context of higher demographic pressures and climate change. There is an increased risk of floods due to heavy precipitation events, increased storminess, sea level rise. There is also the need to ensure the seawater quality from terrestrial and protect seawater quality from terrestrial contamination. And there is also a need to ensure the sustainable use of the resources, and in particular the use of energy. And so all this requires an integrated real-time adaptive management, and it is in this context that the project Synergia was built, and it its main goal is to develop a decision support platform for the integrated and optimized management of bathing water's quality, flooding emergencies, and the energy consumption by the sanitation infrastructures in coastal cities. So the project is coordinated by Siemens. It has partners from the research fields and also stakeholders. And the project is built in a smart city view. So it aims to provide tailored information that supports the management and planning of the city by different entities, like the wastewater utilities, the municipalities, and to support both the society and the economic activities. And what the platform and the system will provide and integrate is real-time information that can also be provided by these different entities. And it will include data from monitoring networks and also data from the infrastructure operation, a forecasting framework, and also predefined environmental scenarios and operational alternatives for the management. The system uses the XHQ platform, which is developed by Siemens, and it is built like as a generic tool that can then be customized to the challenges of different stakeholders and end users, and also for different water bodies contexts. So, the case study and all this system is and will be demonstrated in the city of Albufeira and the adjacent coastal area. Tourism is a major economic activity in this area, and there are some occasional beach closure due to fecal contamination events. And so this is an issue for, of course, for the economy and for the region, and also for the people using the beach. And there are also some challenges related with the flooding of the city in the low-lying areas. And all this management is made by different entities with different responsibilities. So the stream and the separate sewer networks are managed by the municipality. The interceptor sewer system and the wastewater treatment plant are managed by the wastewater utility. And then all the questions related with the coastal bathing waters are under the responsibility of the national environmental authority. So as you can see, this requires really an integrated management and planning. Regarding the bathing water's quality and the forecasting and the prediction of the bathing water's quality in particular, we are using an integrated approach to predict the bathing water's quality. The forecasting system includes several models and compartments, as you can see here. We have the atmosphere forecast, then we have the rivers and the streams, we have the urban stormwater and the wastewater infrastructure, and then the receiving coastal water model. And what you can see here is the different interaction and the outputs, input variables between each one of the compartments and the different models. In the coastal area, we are using the SCIS modeling suite in 3D mode, and we are simulating the interactions between the baroclinic flow and also the short period waves, because we are in a coastal area, and we are also simulating the fecal contamination. And we are using the models and the results of the models to provide 2 layers of information. We are providing daily hydrodynamics and water quality forecasts, and we also use the model to create a database of environmental and operation scenarios that can be used to support the management. The outputs of the model are then translated into a set of indicators related with the bathing water's quality and the criteria that are defined in the regulation. And we are also considering an indicator related with the risk of disease due to exposure. Of course, that prior to the implementation of the model in the forecasting system and to create the database of scenarios, we have done some verification and of the model results by comparison with existing data. So in the next couple of slides, I will show you some brief examples of the outputs and of the information that is available in these 2 layers of information. So, and starting with the operational circulation and water quality forecasts. These forecasts are produced daily in an automatic way using the Open Coasts platform. We are producing forecasts for the next 48 hours, or for today and the day after, and we have forecasts of water levels, velocities, waves, salinity, temperature, and fecal indicator bacteria, so E. coli and Enterococcus. And what you can see here is an example of a forecast. So here we have the discharge of the submarine outflow, and we have here a view in one example location near the beach, and we can see the water levels and then the E. coli concentrations in that location. Regarding the scenarios database, we built a scenarios database that includes both what we called the environmental scenarios, considering different conditions of tides, waves, different atmospheric conditions. And we also built the operation scenarios related with the drainage system. And these scenarios were created in collaboration with the stakeholders. And what we have is the normal operation scenarios and also some emergency operation scenarios, some situations that could occur in case of a failure of a system. And what you have here is just some examples of some results, and in the right, in case of a failure of a system, you can see how the plume of the submarine outfall can reach or no the beach. Okay, just to finish, some final remarks. So we are developing an ICT platform that combines different levels of information and addresses multiple challenges of coastal cities management. Here in the right, you have a quick a first overview of the XHQ platform dashboard for the bathing waters quality. So this is a view of how the system will then be presented, and then it will have information for the floods, for the energy consumption, and the managing entities can reach these different layers of information in different dashboards. And all this information can also be tailored for the different needs of the different entities. Okay, and that's it. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. So at the moment, there is one question about the resolution of the time resolution of the models, which is a really technical one. I think it would be nice if you could answer this question in the chat, Marta, because it's interesting for all of us. But we are really running a little bit of the time, and I would like to take the opportunity to discuss a little bit what we wanted to do also to address this using digital solution for the Bathing Water Directive policy compliance, and to discuss the challenges and the bottlenecks. So first of all, I would like I would propose that all of the people joining this talking today, they are going to come again, and I would like to do a short round to ask you what is your opinion about that. At the same time, we would like to ask the audience to answer the same question. So Nicolas is going to share again this QR code so that everybody can answer the same questions. Nicolas, are you sharing the link? Yes. Now we have in the chat we have the link to the Slido, and I think it's going to share, yes, now the QR code so that you can use it for your mobile phone. Okay. So of course the solution that we have selected today or presented today, they are more or less complying with the Bathing Water Directive. At the same time, the Bathing Water Directive is going to be adapted. So it's difficult to say now what are the changes or the bottlenecks with concerning the compliance, because we don't know what will be the Bathing Water Directive. So I would like first to ask Silvia Bartolini, after all this presentation, what kind of challenges she's seeing in all the solutions that have been presented, or of course we haven't presented everything. So Silvia, oh, okay, she's not here at the moment. I don't know.
I'm here, Pascal, I'm here.
Okay, sorry. Okay, I didn't know. Okay, Silvia.
Well, I have to say that from the point of view of the legislator, when you speak about innovative solution, and I was saying that in my introductory remark, and also that was confirmed following the very interesting presentation that I was listening to from all the cities, regional authorities, but also different partners and stakeholders that were attending. I mean, you realize that when you're drafting legislation, you're drafting the legislation for the next 10, 20 years. And what is here today is maybe a representation of the best practices of what is already being done. But who knows what will be done in 5 years, 10 years, what will be possible. So for us, the challenge is to make sure that we do not draft legislation that limits this innovation, that is technologically neutral, because that is a principle that to which all legislation EU legislation needs to abide to, and at the same time that can embrace that, but also push for that, so that basically we want that to be used more and more to simplify our life. I was mentioning at the beginning what we can do for simplify our monitoring and reporting, what we can do in order to better manage those bathing waters. And there were many incredible ideas that I was listening to today. But we should not come up with one size fits all solution, because as it was also mentioned and clearly explained today, different bathing waters have different needs, and we need to be, let's say, comprehensive enough as to capture all these needs and to allow those different technological and digital solutions to provide replies. So for me, that is, let's say, the main challenge and the main take out of what I was listening today. The other main take is for sure the fact that, let's say, the current bathing water is not pushing, is not embracing enough, and that there is a need for updating from that point of view, because it is an important aspect if we want to have a future proof and legislation that is in line with our times. Then I think there is also another aspect that maybe as a legislator I would like to make, and that digital technologies can be used for two purposes. On the one side, for compliance, and that is one thing when it gets in relation to the law, implementation of legislation, and the other side, they can also be used not stricto sensu for compliance, but also for provision of information. So you have to make this distinction, and that is quite an important element. So not everything can be used for compliance, but many other things can be used for providing information, for empowering more the citizens. So that is also something that needs to be kept in our mind.
Thank you very much. But you say that there is something, there are some best practices example, but at the moment there are only some examples. There are not so many of them. So I think there is still some barriers and changes, and so that it can really be used. And one of them is, of course, that there's no really obligation to use this kind of thing.
That's what I was mentioning. Our legislation is not providing this stimulus. I mean, it's not, I mean, plenty, I mean, we know quite often that plenty of sectors are reactive to legislation. Legislation is giving the push.
Yes.
And for the moment, this is something that it is not really captured in the current text of the Bathing Water Directive.
Yes, yes, thank you very much. Loic, would you like to add something about that from the point of view of Water Europe? Is there, where do you see the challenges or concerning the digital solutions?
In fact, I agree with Silvia Bartolini that we need to have stimulus in the EU legislations and to push for that. It's what we are pushing for, water smart society. And we had also a position of digitalization of the water sector to make sure that it's not only for bathing water, but it's also for the urban wastewater treatment directive, the industrial emission directive, but also in terms of soil quality monitoring, that water can play a role, that we need to make sure that all this legislation remains technology neutral, but open up all the opportunities that we can have in terms of digitalizations. So for example, in the case, we have different cases right now about coastal areas, inland water, urban areas, rural areas. You cannot use the same, but you can have a complementary approach. Also, that this holistic approach, what we call from the spring to the sea, also is really important. Make sure that we can have a proactive approach in terms of controlling the pollutions and the quality of water, and make sure also that we can take the right decisions for the local policy makers after. So to close or not the areas. But of course, the legislation cannot block, in fact, the innovative options that we might have in the next 10 or 20 years.
And the solutions that we have seen today, they were more something that have been proposed by the, can be proposed to the managers. And the question, as Silvia said at the beginning, is really important to have some more citizen engagement. And that's something that we haven't discussed really today. We had some points. It's a service. It's something that is really important. It's something that is important for tourism. But that's a point that could be also discussed, addressed. We could how could we use or how could we address this monitoring issue, information issue, modeling issue, using information from citizens. Because I think that's the position of Water Europe also, this to have and to have more engagement, to have livable cities. And do you have some ideas, some comments on that?
Me, I assume. Yes. But that may be more, and here we can speak about that. But we are also pushing for, indeed, collaboration with local authorities, local stakeholders, including citizens, in a transparent way. And it's what we are pushing for water-oriented living labs. And you have different examples. So that is a discussion that we have right now on the Zero Pollution Action Plan with the flagship 7. But it might be also duplicate for the bathing water areas and can be used in that case. So I do not know all the examples, but you have one in Amsterdam or in Copenhagen, for example, in working with citizens to take different samples all across the cities to provide data for research centers, but it might be also directly with the schools. I saw some of these actions that also raise the importance of the value of water for the next generations. So you have different options, and I'm sure that in that case, it's more the local actors who can really push for that. And once again, here it's the legislation who can unleash this potential, but you cannot shape directly in the directive a specific way to act. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Jean-Pierre, what is your opinion about the challenges and bottlenecks using digital solutions? So you are really now asking yourself this kind of question for Paris, for the Olympic Games, and I'm sure that you are seeing some of them.
Yes, my question is about the revision of the directive, because in the frame of the previous one, there is a bottleneck on the duration of compliance with the standards. I mean that when you have a 19 percentile, you have to comply to go fast 19% of the time. But with the digital tools, we can see that we can assure that we are complying during even a shorter time. And this makes a big difference in terms of investments to offer bathing sites in urban cities, in the urban area, for example. So my question is, how in the revision do you intend to offer more flexibility in this area? In fact, I don't know if I'm clear enough, but that is my question. And it's a kind of bottleneck, in fact, because investments are quite huge. And if we have the tools to offer safer, to guarantee safe conditions for swimming, so there is no problem, in fact. That's my point of view.
I will reply very quickly, because I think that at this stage we do not know how we will do it, but I can reassure about the fact that we are looking into that. And that is related a little bit to what I was saying before. Not all technologies and not all solutions can be used for compliance, but there are indeed some that can help to ensure compliance. So, I mean, then we will have to see if more or less flexibility, how much, and in which context. And I think it's too early because we are still evaluating, but that is one of the points that it is under consideration for sure.
Okay, thank you.
And that's a point that have been discussed in Germany. I think the discussion during the implementation of the early warning system in Berlin was to say, okay, if we are able to predict these short-term events, and then that should be possible to take them away from this evaluation, and then then to only evaluate the time that you are proposing a safe bathing place. So that was the discussion we had with the authorities, with the federal authorities in Germany. Is there any? I would like to ask Sebastian Hoppe, what kind of, after some experience with this bathing water management and early warning system, but I think no real experience with online monitoring. I would like to ask you, what kind of challenges do you see, or bottlenecks do you see for these implementations?
Well, I think I kind of touched on some of the challenges that I saw, or that I see in regards to using digital technology for bathing water management. I mean, and it was mentioned by some of the others here as well. I think there are three major parts to it, and this is, one is the question of the model, one is the question of the technical and the digital implementation, and the other one is the legal framework. Now, if any of those change in any way, then you have to adapt to that. So now we have implemented this under some, the conditions that were present at the time. Now, obviously, if the Bathing Water Directive changes, that might have an influence on, and that might pose a challenge to the way we operate. I know there have also been discussions, ongoing discussions in Germany, at least, in regards to the question of whether or not early detection systems are suitable for warning, for issuing a warning, but not for clearing a bathing site again. So that is another question that we have to deal with, because one of the key advantages, as I mentioned also in my talk, is the speed, and the speed that not only in the warning perspective, but also in clearing it. And that if you get a short-term pollution event on, let's say, a Wednesday, and you can then could clear the bathing site on a Friday, so that people could go there on the weekends, which is the major time of the week where people will use those, especially in the summer. And I think if you then need another sample that has to be sent to the lab, and you have to wait again, then you're losing a lot of the advantages that these kind of tools give you. And I think that is one of the things that we really have to look carefully at, also in regards of the review of the Bathing Water Directive, and how the legal framework will continue to handle this. Maybe so much for now.
Yes, thank you. Miguel, what is your opinion on that?
I think my remark will join the previous one, as I would identify a challenge to open the possibility to use innovative monitoring devices, as presented earlier, which can be very more precise and would improve the safety of bathing sites. And if we compare, it can give us thousands of measurements, while lab analysis, we only do maybe 4 during the summer. It's enough right now with the directive, and it's not really safe, I think. So this tool could help us to be safer for swimmers.
Yes, thank you very much. Then I would like to ask, Dan is not in the chat now, because he's in Los Angeles, and it's It's a 3 a.m. in Los Angeles, so I think he wanted to sleep now. But I think a colleague of him, Marion Chanoni, is in the meeting, but I'm not sure she can answer this question. So let's jump to Montserrat and ask for your opinion about the challenges that you have.
Yeah, well, I think Sylvia said a good news, a good piece of news, that it's that the new directive doesn't want to be close to innovation, and that's a very good point. And I think that for continuous water quality monitoring, the big issue is that all the samples has to be analyzed following the directive in a laboratory and following a specific method. This close and it's a big barrier for these new technologies, especially for continuous water quality monitoring. I think we can find tools as, for example, the ETB that can assure the compliance of the water quality monitoring and to be confident in this data. I think for us, the main barrier is this one regarding the lab analysis, but at the end, it's the only thing that it's taken into account.
Thank you very much. Wolfgang, can you give us your opinion on that?
I very much agree with my predecessors about the challenges, and that the new directive should be open for new modeling approaches and measurement approaches. But I also see a lot of opportunity when I look at, for example, combining innovative measurement technologies and machine learning modeling, because those measurement technologies are able to very efficiently collect informative data at a new location. And so you don't have to go years after years to this location and collect data, spend a lot of money, and in the end, this data is not informative enough. But you can actually adapt the data collection process very good to your modeling objectives.
Thank you. But of course, we have heard from Sylvia at the beginning, it's very important to look at the efficiency, effectiveness, I think relevance, coherence, and added value. That's the point you were addressing to reevaluate the Bathing Water Directive, and that's the thing that we could have a look of all these solutions, and to have this look on all these solutions could be really also interesting to go deeper and to evaluate the solution that we are proposing with all these criteria. Blanca, may I ask you also what kind of issues, challenges, or bottlenecks do you see?
The next step for Barcelona will be to include not only the real rain measured, also the forecasted rain, in order to give to the swim model more information to forecast better the CSO. Also, regarding the chat, we are agree that the confirmation of the quality should be made with analysis, but the models also can give the managers which is the best time to take this sample to be sure that the sample is going to be with a good quality. That means you need a lot of sampling campaigns to know how long is every event, and depending on your location, you will have very variable kind of events. So the models will help you to decide when is the best time to take the sample to reopen the the bathing area.
Thank you. Sylvia, you wanted to add something?
Yes, just a consideration, because you know, a consideration for the next, I mean, for those that will have to intervene after me in relation to, I mean, you mentioned the different criteria that we have to take into consideration in the evaluation, and there is one element that we will have to pay quite a lot of attention as well, when we do the impact assessment in particular, which I was quite surprised that none of you has mentioned until now. And I think that it is because it is in a certain way telling of how much investing in digital technology then brings back, and it is costs, because it is an important element that we will have to assess in our impact assessment whenever we push or in legislation for, I mean, certain kind of solution. You need to justify that there are more benefits than the costs that you are involving by going and pushing for, I mean, particularly when you make mandatory some solutions. So this is something which is quite challenging, and that we know already is going to be quite challenging for us to assess concretely, because you can have qualified data, but the best one are quantified data. And in relation to investment in digital solutions, many of these benefits are indirect, because they do come, for example, due to the fact that you manage to reopen, you have a predictive modeling that allow you to better manage your site, and maybe you manage to reopen the site in time for the weekend, meaning that many tourists can then, or citizens can then have and then enjoy the bathing site, and that has an impact in the local economy. But it is very difficult to relate that to the directive itself. So one of the challenges that we will be experiencing is on how we can quantify those indirect and direct costs, and to really relate them to the benefits of this directive. So I mean, it was just a consideration, because I would like you to be aware of that element. If there are examples and calculations that you have done, because I guess that all of you, when you do decide to make those investments, you make your business, you make your own calculation and look at what are those kind of benefits, because you need to justify those. All the data that we can tap on that are extremely important and valuable to us, because it is one of the big challenges that we will have to look into on, and then to really make sure that we justify all decision that is going then to be enshrined in legislation, because that is one of the big requirements that we have in relation to impact assessment in when making EU law.
Oh, thank you very much. I think it's really important, and so we had some discussion in the first project, and I think we can share some information on that. And as you said, it's really indirect, because you said we have to involve more the citizens, and then if you are then aware about water quality, about bathing water quality, then they will want to more protect the water quality in general, and then and so it's possible that they will have a better behavior in general. So, and that's, which is really difficult to mention. But before Jean-Pierre is again, he wanted to say something. I would like to ask Marta, not to forget you, if what kind of bottlenecks and do you see, and challenges do you see for the implementation?
Yes, thank you. From a prediction and an early warning point of view and the use of these digital solutions, I think that one of the main challenges is to reduce the uncertainty of the prediction. And this is the way we can make our tools really useful. And the way we can do it, or I see a way forward and also an opportunity, is really to integrate the data and the models together. And I see very good opportunities here, in particular with online monitoring tools to measure the fecal contamination and the water quality. And I think this is a challenge, and it's also an opportunity, because if we can reduce the uncertainty. We can also bring more confidence to the predictions, to the models, and we can also use these tools to better support the directive. And in forecasting mode, I think the need of online water quality, fecal indicator, bacteria data, it's a challenge, and today I see that we also as an opportunity using some of the tools that were presented here. And I also see it as a challenge. We need to have specificities of the water bodies, of the regions, of the managers, and our tools need to be flexible. So we need to develop tools that have some flexibility to deal with the different needs of the different managers.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm really sorry because we're running out of time, and Andrea wanted to conclude. I don't know if Andrea is still online with us.
I'm here.
Oh, sorry, Andrea.
Thank you so much, Pascal, and thank you, everybody, for this great discussion today. I think that we really touched a lot of hot issues, hot topics. I mean, about water quality, and well, I mean, what we can take for sure is that, I mean, digital solutions, I mean, as we know, I mean, are essential for monitoring water quality, but I mean, this goes well beyond this. I mean, I think that well, we also understood that we need also additional further efforts, not only to support what is now, I mean, clear, this digital transition towards, I mean, a greener and more digital Europe. But I think that going back, I mean, to the digital issues, I think that yes, we are in a transition, but we should also think, I mean, at the time when the transition will be over. I mean, transitions are not forever. It means that the time will come for which we need to consolidate our capacity of managing effectively water, not only quality of water, with a systemic digital approach. I mean, there are a number of examples that, I mean, are coming up, like, I mean, the digital twins that represent today a new frontier in using the digital tools for managing water, managing, I mean, the infrastructure that are behind the water, and support the capacity of our society to be resilient in terms of water management. I mean, if I can go back, I mean, to the early years of my life, I mean, I remember that the first attempt of a digital twin was for the Apollo 13, which was, I mean, a real digital twin approach at the time in an emergency situation. But we should consider now not any longer this as an emergency, but as a natural, as, I mean, an ordinary, as a normal approach, in which, as I said, transition will not be forever, but we need really to consolidate our capacity of using the digital tools and what will come in the coming years. I also understand that there is a discussion between how much legislation and policy development can support, and of course must support the proper deployment of innovation up to the market uptake of the innovation. But at the same time, also it's also understandable that there are two speeds that are going ahead, and one is the, I mean, technological capacity of inventing new innovation in a short time, and the times of the legislation and policy development that it's a bit different, particularly when we need to plan for decades, for several years in front of us. But taking the point of the matter that we all agree on the matter that we want to achieve a water smart society, using also digital tools, but also using approaches that can be able to put on board all the relevant actors. And this is the reason for which Water Europe advocates for and support the development of water-oriented living labs, where solutions, including digital solutions, can be identified, tested, validated, and supported up to the market uptake. So once again, I think that this discussion is well alive. We need to see the challenges really in the long run, and to be able to synchronize the capacity of the innovation, the research and innovation environment, and the legislative and the policy development in a way that all these things go ahead, I mean, hand in hand for an effective water management, as I said, for a water smart society. I think also that discussion is not over, absolutely. By the way, I think that we're going to have, I mean, we are going to have, I mean, a new opportunity for discussing about these important topics in Water Innovation Europe that will be held on 14th and 15th of June 2022. Once again, I mean, I would like to thank all of you for this great contribution, this great workshop, this great event that took place today. And well, I mean, many thanks from Water Europe, also for the insight and the inputs that we received in order to enrich our capacity of being supportive for the water sector and the water users. Thank you so much once again. Thank you.